रुक
Dr. Firoz, you might want to put a reminder on the group essentially that we're almost ready to start.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Rujita, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So screen visible?
Yes, yes, the screen is visible. I can see the directories.
Dr. Firoz, you have shared something?
Yes, sir. I have shared the screen that you have told me.
That we can't see. That introductory slide we can't see. Uh, yes, now it is visible.
Visible, sir?
Yes, yes, it is now visible.
Okay.
Sharik sir, shall we start the session?
Yeah, another 2 minutes or so by 4:50.
Okay, fine.
Just give 2 more minutes. Meanwhile, Dr. Firoz, please send a reminder on the group. I think we can get started, Professor Sufyan.
Okay, thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm good evening, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed all 7 days of 1 week AICTE approved faculty induction program on multidisciplinary and translational drug development. I am Abu Sufyan, event lead coordinator on behalf of Anjuman-e-Islam Kalsekar Technical Campus, New Panvel. Extend my warm welcome to all dignitaries, resource person, faculty members, participants to the concluding day of this refresher program. To start with, as a tradition of Anjuman-e-Islam, I will recite and translate few verses from Holy Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارف إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبيرا The translation of these words from Holy Quran is, O mankind, we have created you from a male and a female, and we have made you into tribes and sub-tribes that you may know one another. Verily, the most honorable amongst you in the sight of Allah is the one who is most righteous amongst you. Surely Allah is all-knowing, all-aware. So these words from Surah Al-Hujurat that teaches us to do righteous deed. It is worth implementing in our life. Yesterday we had very enlightening session on optical biosensor by Dr. Preta Sharan, Oxford Educational Institute. In her session, she discussed about feasibility of use of different optical sensor and its application in healthcare. Followed by her session, we had second session by Dr. Sandeep Kumar Roy from MIT University. In his session, he discussed about role of AI in medical healthcare. Going ahead, today we have very relevant hands-on session on artificial intelligence. For this session, we have with us Mr. Sunny Desai, who had earlier in day 5 had taken detailed session on introduction to artificial intelligence. Although he has already taken the session, but still for new participant, I formally introduce Mr. Sunny Desai. Mr. Sunny Desai has completed his engineering in instrumentation and control from Gujarat University in the year 2008. He has working experience of managing maintenance activity of field instrumentation, online analyzers, and fire and gas system. In addition, he also driving industry 4.0 initiative such as IoT, robotics, analytics, and mobility solution for the site. During his tenure, he has also delivered 7 large-scale control system projects for petrochemical plants, designed and implemented alarm management system for entire site, designed and deployed cyber security practices for control system application.
Sufyan sir, you got muted, sir.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes, no.
Okay. So I think, started with the introduction.
Yes, yes, you are halfway there.
Okay, fine. So during the tenure of Mr. Sunny Desai, he has also delivered 7 large-scale control system projects for the petrochemical plants, designed and implemented alarm management system for the entire site, designed and deployed cyber security practices for the control system application, text analytics-based mobility solution, text analytics-based prescriptive model for machine condition monitoring system, AI-based process variability reduction, text mining to predict safety incident, and quality circle award. He also took up challenging role in an analytical OEM company based on United States of America with specialized experience of more than 40 years in the ML and AI. With this brief introduction, I extend my warm welcome to Mr. Sunny Desai, and I request him to start with his session. Mr. Sunny, it is over to you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
So before we start our today's session, let me just share my screen. I request you to confirm.
I think Dr. Firoz, you have to stop sharing the screen. Yes, now you can
confirm.
Yes, it is visible.
Is it visible? Okay, good evening to you all. And thank you all for joining. And once again, a special thanks to the organizing committee to give us an opportunity to come here and interact with you all. I'm sure all of you must have had a safe time and must have a great learning experience along with all these spectacular learnings that you have had in last few days. So our today's session is in continuation to add something new to your learning curve. And before we get into the topic, I would like to share what Alvin Toffler once said. So Alvin Toffler is an American writer and futurist, said that the illiterate of the 21st century is not those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, who cannot unlearn and relearn. So learning is what we understand to gain or acquire knowledge of something special or a skill into something by studying or by experience or by being taught. Unlearn is what we call as to discard something which we have already learned, especially false or outdated information from one's memory. And relearn is something to learn new again. The world which we are living and is fast and dynamic. We all know this. We have experienced this in last few years, and especially in last year, where change remains the only constant. So to change, what is important is the attitude to learn. And I must share this before you were joining. We were discussing this in the forum that you all present here have demonstrated this attitude towards learning something new with changing time. In a way, rather than we would call it just piling information, we must be prepared to do away or unlearn our old methods and adopt or relearn new methods to boost our career growth. In the end, I would like to say that Lao Tzu, an Asian Chinese philosopher, explained it well through his quote, to attain knowledge, add things every day. I repeat, to attain knowledge, add things every day, but to attain wisdom, remove things every day. So with this inspiring line, let me once again welcome you all and take you back to the world of machine learning and data science, where today we will see how the concepts of machine learning are really put into use for the good of society. So to start with, last time when we had discussed, we had understood what is AI, what is machine learning, what is deep learning, and what are the different types of machine learning models such as supervised, unsupervised, reinforced, and semi-supervised model. So today we are going to go into a little depth of understanding how these predictive models are developed and how these models really generate value for the good. So to start with, if you look at on the screen, then what we have is there is an entire cycle or an entire project management cycle that is followed to develop machine learning model. And when we talk about the entire project, it starts with defining the problem statement. So I think this is one of the key part, or this is one of the biggest challenge in any machine learning model. If we are able to define the problem right, then we will be able to come up with a most suitable machine learning model or machine learning solution to solve that problem. So it starts with defining the problem statement. The second step, we talk about preparing the data. Third is to choose a machine learning model which can be deployed to meet the requirement. Next would be to train the model, evaluate the performance of the model, do the parameter fine tuning or improve the performance of the model. And then the end part and the most critical part is to deploy these models online in real time in field, so that it does not remain only an academic exercise, but then it can really generate value for society, for organizations, for us as humans. So this is the entire cycle, and it's very common. So in almost all of the machine learning projects, machine learning and AI project, these are the steps or these are the cycles that is followed. You would be surprised to know, and today I will demonstrate it, that more than 70% of the time of the entire data science project is spent in preparing data, rather not in developing some high-fi machine learning models, but then doing the basic part of preparing the data and then further fine-tuning the model and then deploying things online. So let's go a little step deeper into understanding when we say that the key part of a machine learning project is to define the problem statement. So how do we define a problem statement? What are the different types of variables that are used in the data that we see around? And I think this is an important concept before we move on to looking at how these models are really developed. So as an analyst, you are interested in developing relationship between events. For example, today we're going to look at predicting the type of cancer tumor with the physical characteristics which are available of the tumor. And as an analyst or as a machine learning expert, you want to develop relationship between these two the principal components which we are looking at. So here I've taken a simple example. It's always like the amount of money spent. We understand that the amount of money spent is somewhere relation to the amount of money we earn, except few outliers. But most of the time, these two are related to each other. And then as an analyst, this relationship we know, but we need to convert this relationship into a mathematical form. So to give a mathematical form to the relationship that we have understood, the key part is known as variable. So what are different types of variable that we will understand in the next slide. Now this is very important, and it's because once we understand what are the different types of variable, we will understand that in real life, wherever we see machine learning and AI around us, we will be able to relate whatever we are learning today. Okay, so to start with, if we take an example of a car, so now I want to predict if I'm running my car from South Bombay to New Panvel, and in between I want to predict that if there is a probability of a failure of a car, if the failure of a car happens, then I may not be able to reach on time or to attend the lectures there or to interact with students there. So when I am driving a car, what are the different types of variables that are there? For example, start and stop of a car is a different type of variable. The speed of a car is a variable. The fuel economy of a car is a variable. Then the tire pressure is a variable. So these are the different physical characteristics which are there in the environment of the car are called variables. Let me take another example of recent COVID cases. So for example, say the RMB Setu app uses, if you're safe or if you're unsafe, it uses a couple of parameters. So one parameter or the one variable is called as, have you had an international travel in last 15 days or 30 days of time? If you say yes, if you say no, so your travel becomes one kind of variable. Now, what is this type of variable known as? We will look in the next slide. The second is known as the body temperature. Whenever we enter any place within our residential complexes or commercial complexes, now body temperature is measured. So this body temperature becomes a kind of variable that decides if one person has a probability of COVID infection or not. And the third would be, say, the social distancing maintained between people when they are on roads, in malls, or in trains. So these are some of the examples of variables that we see in everyday life, like consumption of energy that we have, that we do in our offices, that we do in our homes becomes a variable. Then the wind speed becomes a very crucial variable to forecast or to predict what would be the overall wind energy generated. So I've taken very simple examples where we can relate to understand that, okay, a wind speed becomes a variable to predict what would be the amount of wind energy generated, or to predict what would be the fuel bill in next, what would be the energy bill in next couple of months, is totally dependent upon the amount of energy that we are consuming, and then energy consumption becomes one type of variable. So from here, let's go a little deeper into understanding, or let's go into technicalities of understanding what are variables, what are different types of variables, and then we will see further examples as well. So to start with, variables are of two types. One variable is known as numeric, like we took an example of body temperature. Now, body temperature can be anywhere between 32, 36, 40 degrees Celsius. So a body temperature is a variable where the values are represented only by numbers. So wherever we have numbers, we call them numeric variable. Now, going further into numeric variable, there are two types. One type is known as continuous variable, and the second type is known as discrete variable. For example, continuous variable is an example of the speed of the vehicle. So either you can, so for example, if you're driving your vehicle from South Bombay to New Panvel, then either you would be driving at 100 kilometers per hour, 200 or 110 kilometers per hour, or in between 100 to 110 kilometers per hour. So it's not a safe practice to drive, as an example. So it can take any infinite number of values between 100 and 110. So numbers can be infinite. It could be 101.1, it could be 101.2. So these are called continuous variable. Now, discrete variable is something, the number of stops that you take while you're driving your vehicle. For example, either you can take one stop, you can take two stops, or you can take three stops. You cannot take 2.5 stops. So even though the number of stops that you take while you're driving your vehicle from your home to your office can be represented by numeric value, but it cannot be continuous. It can only be one stop, two stop, three stop, or four stop. It cannot be 1.2, 1.1 stops. So talking about variables, we have numeric. From numeric, we have continuous as well as discrete variable, right? So right now, what we looked at are numbers. Now there could be other ways of looking at variables also. So these variables are called categorical variable. Now categorical variable are, when you call out your students that you have scored distinction, you have scored first class, you have scored second class, or unfortunately you didn't pass. So these are called category of variables where there are fixed number of defined types of values which are fixed. For example, the distinction, first class, second class, or didn't pass. So these are called categorical variables. Now in categorical variables, we have further different types, which is known as ordinal variable and nominal variable. Now ordinal variable is something which has a defined sequence. Okay, it has a defined sequence, defined hierarchy. It can be arranged in order. Like the highest marks would be the person who got distinction, followed by first class, followed by second class, followed by didn't pass. So when you talk about the passing grade of a student, then it can be arranged in an order. Other type of variable are nominal variable. So nominal variable are the type of subject that your student chooses. So for example, in pharmacy, some student might select type A as an additional subject. Some student might select type B as an additional subject. Some student might select type C as an additional subject. But then they cannot be arranged in order because there is no order in type A, type B, or type C subject. So those examples, so those types of variables are classical examples of nominal variable. So let us quickly revise. We talked about variables. Variables, either there could be numbers or there could be values. There could be alphabetical values. We talk about numbers, then there could be continuous variable, that could be discrete variable, and categorical, there could be ordinal, that has orders, nominal, that does not follow any order but have limited or defined number of types. From here, looking at types of variable, we will move on to the next section, which talks about different type of charts that we follow in machine learning or statistics. Now, before we come here to this part, let me talk about why did we discuss about variable? And the reason to discuss about variable was our first step, or the step to start a machine learning project is actually to define a problem statement. And when you define a problem statement, it is absolutely necessary to understand what is the environment around that problem statement. If you're driving a car, you want to predict the failure of your car, then you will need to understand what are the different types of variables that are available to predict if a car can fail or if the car cannot fail. So from here, let me take a very quick pause. If anybody have any doubts or want to know anything more on this, then we'll take a 10 seconds break or we'll move ahead. Okay, so let's continue our journey. From looking at different types of variable, now we are going to look at what are the different types of chart that we follow. Now, why chart? So when we look at different types of chart, it tells us about the data or the numbers that you have. For example, every day you're driving your vehicle, and when you drive a vehicle, it takes almost around 1 hour to reach your office and 1 hour to come back. Now we want to predict the failure of your vehicle. You have the data of last 1 month or 2 months or 6 months. Okay, that is known as the historical data. So the crux of machine learning is it learns from the historical data. I'm sure all of you would remember we discussed this last time that machine learning or artificial intelligence can only learn from the historical data or from the data that it has already seen. So now you have a data. As a data scientist, to start for the project, you would like to know what is the overall characteristics of the data or what is the overall behavior of the data. So to know those behaviors, there is a term known as exploratory data analytics. Exploratory data analytics is something where we play around with the data, where we explore what are different patterns in the data before we come to a conclusion. So it's only about before we initialize the process, before we initialize the project, we want to know more about data, right? So to start with, we have histograms. So statistics, as we understand, is a stream of mathematics that is applied in various fields. When numbers are repeated in statistical data, this repetition is known as frequency, and which can be written in the form of a table called as frequency distribution table. A frequency distribution can also be shown graphically by using different types of charts, and histogram is one of them. For example, when you're driving from your home to your college in New Pannville, usually you would take 3 stops. One stop you would take either at Vashi Toll Naka, the other stop at some breakfast joint, and third would be probably at your college campus. So so when you're driving this, so I will understand, if I look at the data, I will understand that most of the time you stop at the Vashi Toll Naka. Sometimes you stop at the breakfast joint, and very little time you have to spend standing near the gate of the entry gate of your campus. So from here, I understand that where you take most amount of stops when you're driving from your home to your office, and that is called a frequency distribution table. Now from here, we will move on to the second type of table, which is known as scatter plot. So scatter plots are used, uses dots to represent individual pieces of data on the x-axis to plot a continuous function. So here in statistics, these plots are useful to see if two variables are related to each other. So in the example going forward, we're going to look at some of the physical characteristics of a cancer tumor, which we will try to relate with a type of cancer. So here we want to identify if there is some relationship between different variables. So this is the chart. The scatter plot is the chart that help us identify relationship between different type of variable. Now, what are these relationships? We will look at it in the next slide. So the scatter plot also help us identify if there are some outliers in the data. And what we call as outliers, for example, you are driving, again, let me take a very simple example, is you're driving your car and you usually take 3 stops. But say for some reason, for some extra traffic or some tire puncture, or you wanted to help someone who was in a need or during your way, you stopped by at a near place, and then when I was looking at data, I realized that out of 30 days, there was only 1 day when you had taken 4 stops. So that 4 is known as an outlier, which we usually do not use in developing machine learning models. So if you want to identify those outliers in the data, then scatter plot is a very good way of identifying those outliers and removing those outliers from the data. Now, I'm sure you will understand, why do we want to remove those outliers? Those outliers could be important. Yes, those could be important. But then generally, as we were discussing now, that machine learning model will only learn basis the data that is given to the model. So better the data that we give to the model, better the model will learn. From scatter plot, let's move on to understanding what are the different types of relationship that can have between data. So the first type is known as strong, positive, and linear. So this is called a linear relationship when and so if you look at this chart, then the bottom line, the horizontal line, is known as the x-axis, and the vertical line is known as the y-axis. So we plot one type of variable on the x-axis and the other type of variable on the y-axis. So when we plot this, we want to know the relationship between what is plotted on x and what is plotted on y. To get this relationship, what is the type of relationship? The first is known as linear relationship. Linear means when the x value is increasing on the x-axis, the y value is also increasing on the y-axis. So this linear relationship, when both of them are increasing or both of them are decreasing, is known as linear relationship. And in this case, what we are showing is a positive relationship. There can be negative relationship, whether chart will be completely reversed in the downward direction. From here, we look at the second chart, which is known as moderate negative linear relationship. Moderate means that when the x-axis is increasing, there is no clear relationship on the y-axis. It's like you are driving. It's like you're driving your vehicle on the road and the ambient temperature. Now, there is not much relationship between those two different types of variable, and that's called as negative or negative linear relationship. From here, we look at no relationship. So, for example, the two variables which I talk right now, the speed of the vehicle and the ambient temperature, there cannot be any relationship between this. There can be some relationship between the flow of the air velocity and the speed of your vehicle. So but there cannot be any relationship between the vehicle at the speed at which you are driving and the ambient temperature. So that is represented by the third graph, which is known as null or no relationship. And the fourth is known as strong but non-linear relationship. So basically, scatter plot help you understand details or help you explore more and more about the data on which you're going to develop a machine learning model. So from here, we look at the last chart, which is known as a line chart. So a line chart is something where you plot relationship between x-axis and y-axis. It is very similar to what we looked at in the scatter plot. So instead of scatter plot, here we use line to understand the relationship between two variables. Now, this line is a very common type of chart that is used across all domains, and we all now very clearly understand what are the different types of chart which are generally used in the exploratory data analysis that we do. So I'll take a quick 10-second pause. If you have any questions, any doubts, please feel free. The forum is open for all to raise your questions. Okay, so from here, we will shift our gears and we will move on looking at the next part of our presentation, that is focusing on the use case. And the use case for our today's discussion is, as I shared earlier, is to actually predict the type of cancer tumor that it can be. So over the past decades, we all have read and understood somewhere that a continuous evolution related to cancer research has been performed. So scientists apply different methods of screening in early stage in order to find type of cancer before they cause symptoms. Moreover, they have also developed new strategies for the early prediction of cancer treatment outcome. So with the advent of new technologies in the field of medicine, large amounts of cancer data have been collected. And I think this is the most crucial part of the statement, that the large amount of cancer data has been collected. So for machine learning, please remember what we need is large amount of data. And this data are available to medical research community, usually on open source. However, the accurate prediction of a disease outcome is one of the most interesting and challenging tasks for physicians. As a result, machine learning methods have become a popular tool for medical researchers. So these techniques can discover and identify patterns and relationship between them from complex data sets that we have, while they are able to effectively predict future outcomes of a cancer type. So today, we are discussing one such machine learning method where the objective is to predict based on the data the type of cancer tumor. So what we can see on the screen is known as a classification type of machine learning model. I'm sure all of you would remember last time we had seen that there are different types of machine learning model, and one of them is known as classification model, the other is known as regression model. So today we are looking at a classification model wherein we will predict what is the type of the cancer. Particularly type of cancer, we'll talk about if it is a malignant cancer or it is not. So from here, let me take you to the next step where we talk about what are the features available in the data. So what these features are the type of variables that we discuss, and I'm sure now you will be very well able to relate why we actually talk in a little depth about different types of variables. So what are the different features in the data that is available to us today, on which we will be running the machine learning model? So these are all the physical characteristics of the cancer tumor. One is the type of mean, what is the radius, what is the type of texture, what is perimeter, what is area, smoothness, compactness, concavity, concave points, symmetry, and fractal dimensions. So these are all type of variable, or these are all the features in the data that is available to us. And the objective is that we have the features, now we have to predict based on these features. Other features would be what is the error, possible error in the radius, what is the possible error in the measurement that was done for texture, what is the possible error for compactness, and from here, what is the worst radius, or what is the worst texture, or what is the worst parameter. So whenever an experiment is done, so usually when an experiment is done, these are some of the characteristics that from a statistics point of view that are measured, such as what is the mean radius, what is the possible error. There are different types of error. I'm sure all of us understand this. There are different types of error. And then what is the worst radius that was recorded. So these are some of the input variable. The model that we are going to look today is known as support vector machine. Support vector machine is a machine learning method used for classification. From here, we will go to our target variable, which talks about if the cancer tumor type is malignant or it is not malignant. And that is the overall objective of our today's session. So I'm sure all of you would understand what is known as features in the data, and these features are also called variables. From here, what we are going to look at, what is a classification machine learning model? So, and what are the different types of classification machine learning models? So classification refers to a predictive modeling technique where a class label is prepared for an example of the input data, right? So what we are doing is we are classifying some of the data which is available to us as not malignant and some as yes malignant. So I also listed some of the different binary classification models such as logistic regression, decision tree, support vector machine, and right now we are going to use support vector machine. So when we deploy a machine learning model, when the model is prepared, we also need to test the performance of the model. Now the performance of the model is tested by a tool known as confusion matrix. So the tool does not create confusion in our mind while using the machine learning model. It solves the confusion. It talks about true positives. It means I was COVID positive and I was predicted as a COVID positive, and that's known as true positive. True negative, it means that I was COVID positive, but I was predicted as not a COVID positive patient. That's called as true positive. So confusion matrix basically talks about the evaluating the performance of a machine learning model. From here, let's move on to what a model performance parameter. And remember, these are the model performance parameter, that is precision and recall. We will be using this when we look at the demo. So let's go to the demo. I'll take a quick 10-second pause when I change my screen. If you have any doubts, please raise your points. Okay, so now I'm sure that my screen is visible. Screen is clearly visible to you. Right now, what we are using is known as a Python code. Python is a machine learning. Python is a language in which we can write, in which we can solve different kind of software or AI problems, and one of them is machine learning. So Python helps us. It has inbuilt libraries, and it's an open source tool in which we can write machine learning codes. Today, I'm using Spider. Spider is an interface to write Python. So there are other interfaces as well, such as Jupyter and other interfaces, but right now I'm using a Spider, which is an interface to write Python code. Okay, and this is also an open source. So to start with, as I was explaining, that there are certain open source libraries which are available, and Spider helps you to import all those libraries. Now, libraries are a collection of basic function. For example, you want to do summation. So you did not to write the basic or the background code behind summation. What you simply have to write is SUM, the way we do it in Excel. So Excel also has a list of libraries. Similarly, the first step to start coding in Python is to import all the necessary libraries. So right now we are importing library which is known as pandas. We're importing library which is known as NumPy, and we are importing library known as matplotlib. So matplotlib is a library that we use to plot different types of chart. And then we are importing a Seaborn library which has good characteristics of statistical data visualization. We have selected the code. and then we will run the code with the run selection section here. When we run the code, this is known as the console variable, the console section wherein we get if there are some errors or some warning, or basically the output of the code that we have run. So once we have imported all the libraries necessary for it, the next step is to import the data. Okay. So right now, as I've shared earlier, that what we are doing is we are importing an open data which was available. So we are importing a cancer data which is available in open source. So by default, the data was available in Spider, and we are importing it from the Spider library. The first step, what is known as from sklearn.datasets. So sklearn is a type of library. It is also known as science kit learn. So it is known as kit because it has all the type of necessary things available into it, such as data, different types of variables, different types of formulas. Everything is built in sklearn, and that's why it is known as science kit library. From here, we are importing the data for breast cancer. So we'll run the first line, which is known as importing the data set from, let me clear this, remove all variables. Yes, we remove all variables. We will once again run, we will import all the libraries. From importing the library, now what we are importing is known as the data set. So if you can see here, this section was blank earlier. Okay, let me repeat this step. This section is blank right now. It does not have any variable explorer. It is known as variable explorer, and it does not have any variable, any table. We are running the code. Once we run the code, it has brought that data. So now there is a table here. So to make the table clearly visible to us, we are converting that into a structure known as data frame. Okay. So when I open the original data which I fetched, then it is quite difficult for us to understand what is all inside it. So in order to better understand this, we have converted this into a data frame. So this is known as a data frame for the data which we are currently using. Now I will resize the data frame or resize the table that can be seen here. And then what we will do is we will focus on the different types of, okay, so there was some delay. Now the data frame is resized, and what we can see is these are the different types of variable. If you remember, when we were looking at PPT, we shared what are the different features which we are using. So one of the feature is known as mean radius. The other feature is mean texture. Similarly, we have different features in the data, and this is the raw data which is available to us. Now, this raw data for the purpose of academics has been cleaned, has been well prepared, so that we can simply use it for learning purpose. But in real life, the data is never clean like this. It is never clean like this. And that is why I said that we spend almost 70% time of a project in preparing the data for machine learning. Okay, so we have almost 566 rows here in the data, and then there are 31 columns. So if you look at the size, it helps us understand that there are 31 columns and 569 rows in the data. Now, once we have the data, we are going to do exploratory data analysis. Okay, once you have the data, we can't simply put that data into machine learning model and generate the models and do prediction. We need to understand how the data is and what is all in the data, what are patterns in the data, and then only we will move to our next section, that is developing the model. So first of all, we will develop a plot which is known as pair plot in So what we can see here is that there are the different types of chart. So to start with, this is known as a pair plot. Okay, let me also, so these are known as pair plot. So pair plot is something which will help you understand, it will help you understand that in the data, how many values are 0. When we say 0, it means it's not a cancer, it's not a malignant cancer, and 1, it means it is a malignant cancer. Okay, so here we understand that the frequency of 1 in the data is 66 and the frequency is 41 here. From here, we will move on to the next chart, which actually talks about the relationship between the data. Okay, now you will understand like why had we talked about scatter plot, because scatter plot is actually used to know the relationship between different type of data. Let me plot a scatter plot here. When I plot a simple scatter plot between the mean area is on the x-axis and then mean smoothness is on the y-axis. So I am sure all of you would appreciate the fact, looking at the scatter plot, that there is no clear relationship between the area and smoothness. Okay, now just try and imagine that we have a cancer tumor. Now this cancer tumor, we are measuring all the characteristics. One characteristic is area, the other characteristics is smoothness. Now, from being a domain expert, you will appreciate the fact that there is less relationship or not a very direct relationship between area and smoothness of the type of the sample which we are collecting. And that is prominent from the scatter plot, which we can see here, that the relationship is either not linear, it is non-linear. There is basically very vague relationship here. Okay, but then once we understood relationship, the next step, or how powerful the scatter plot is, it will help us. We can use different colors into it. And let me give an example. Now we have plotted. Earlier we had plotted a scatter plot. Now in the scatter plot, we have augmented the scatter plot with the color. Now what is the color here? So orange color talks about that the type of cancers or the type of sense that the type of data which we have collected had malignant cancer, and the blue part represent, or blue is 0, which represent that it was not. Okay, so in the earlier scatter plot where there was no color, we couldn't draw any type of relationship between the mean area and the mean smoothness. Okay, we cannot draw the same relationship with colors also. But there is one important thing now which we can learn here is that we can clearly see the difference between the data when the target variable was 0 and when the target variable is 1. Okay, so what is it? It helps us understand here that somewhere between 500 to 1000, let's take 750. So when the mean area is more than 750 unit, for most of the times, okay, it's not all, for most of the times, it is high probability that the type of cancer would not be malignant. It would not be malignant, and that can be seen when we augment color in the type of chart that we are using. Similarly, we can also see that on the mean smoothness, where this blue section and the orange section, they are almost equally distributed. Okay, we are not able to identify any, we are not able to classify based on some rule that above this and below this it would be malignant, it would not be malignant. But on the x-axis, that is on the mean area, with normal eyes, we are able to see that yes, there is some relationship between area and the target variable, which is type of cancer. Okay, so such relationship become visible when we augment color into scatter plot. So this is a one type of chart that is used for performing the exploratory data analysis. The other chart is also be known as count. So when we say count, if you remember, we had almost 598 or 96. Let's take a look at it. So we had almost 569 rows. It means we had 569 data values. Now, what is the distribution of the data value? So here we will know that in the data value, there were zeros. It means when the target variable 0, it means there was no cancer or the cancer type was not malignant. There were almost 200 and some variables, for example, 230 or 35 data points that represent 0, and almost 350 or more type rows where the data value is 1. So this a count plot really help us understand that if the classification, if the data which we have has almost equally distributed target variable. Now imagine a case where we have only 10 or 20 cases where there is a cancer, and we have almost 550 or 500 cases where there is no cancer. So such type of problem are known as imbalance in the data. So if there is imbalance in the data, then of course the machine learning will not be able to learn more characteristics about the type of cancer which has less data, which is simple. If we have only 10 samples, then the machine learning will not be able to learn the characteristics that will predict that it is a type of malignant or not. So this chart helps us understand that yes, the data are equally distributed, and then the machine learning will be able to learn good characteristic based on whatever is available. From here, we will move on to the next chart, which is known as developing correlation, testing correlation between different variables. Now you will remember we talked about scatter plot. So scatter plot helps us understand relationship between different types of variable. Imagine that you have more than 100 to 200 variables. Okay. Currently we have almost 31 variables, but in real life problem statement, there could be more than 100, 200 variables. Now, is it possible for you as a data scientist to physically check relationship between those 200 variables using graph? It is very difficult. It will be very difficult because you will have to develop 200. You will have to develop these graphs for all those 200 variables, and then it would become too difficult for you to analyze. So there is a method which is known as doing the correlation analysis, which will help you identify relationship between different types of variable, which can also be done visually using scatter plot, but it will be too difficult or tedious to do, right? So now we are looking at the next section, which is known as developing correlation data. So what we are doing is we have run this correlation chart, and we have also run the heat map. Okay, the heat map to denote it. Now we are developing correlationship between different types of variable. Okay, so this chart is now available with us. This is known as the correlation chart, and this type of chart is known as heat map, where what we are doing is now if you could observe on your right, we have a scale which is known as, where the scale ranges from -1 to +1. So when the relationship between is 1, the block is highlighted as light color, light cream color, and when it is -1, it is highlighted as something which is very dark color, or say black color. So the relationship ranges between -1 to 1. Now recall when I said that the relationship is positive linear or it is negative linear. Okay, so when the relationship is, or when the correlation values are greater than 0, okay, please listen to me carefully. When the correlation values are greater than 0, then those are called positive correlation, and when the correlationships are less than 0, those are known as negative correlation. Okay, so whatever we were able to identify with scatter plot, so this is a scatter plot, we are able to do that with numbers. In the scatter plot, we knew if something is increasing, it is positive, something is decreasing, it is negative. We are able to do the same with with this chart, which is known as heat map. When it is greater than 0, it is positive. It is less than 0, it is negative. Now, as a thumb rule, okay, as a thumb rule, what we do is any relationship which is greater than 0.6 on the positive side, on the negative side. So relationship between 0.6 and 1, and relationship between -0.6 and 1 is considered as significant. Okay, is considered as significant. Rest all other relationships are considered as not that significant. I repeat, relationship between 0.6 and 1, And on the negative side, minus 0.6 and minus 1 are considered as significant, and relationship less than this or between these are not considered as significant. So right now, if you see, what we are plotting is, if you see the relationship between mean area, okay, so we have large number of variables, it is becoming too difficult for us to interpret the chart. So for the purpose of practice, I have, let us prepare, okay, so let's look at this chart, or we can also code for the purpose of practice. It will take some time. So here we will look at the type of relationship between different variables. So look at this. What is our target? Our target is if the cancer is yes, or it is melanine, or it is no. So that is our target variable. Now we will look at this target variable, and we will identify relationship between different data values. So here, if we see that the relationship between mean radius is minus 0.73. What does it mean? It means that the relationship of mean radius to the type of malignant cancer or not is crucial. So we will select this variable in our further analysis. From here, we will move on to the next part, which is known as mean texture. Now, texture value is somewhere around 0.42. So when we say texture value, it is becoming difficult. That it is 0.42. If you remember the thumb rule, it is not significant, and we will not consider this in our further analysis. Second, we will look at mean perimeter. So this perimeter, the value is somewhere around 0.74, and it becomes crucial. So this is how these values, right? This is how the value of correlationship help us understand if the data that we are using, if the variables that we are using are significant or if they are not significant. So for the purpose of study, I've taken only few number of variables for you to clearly visualize it, because it was not that visible in the earlier chart. If you visualize here, we have a target variable. Now this target variable relationship with radius is significant. With texture, it is insignificant. With perimeter, it is significant. With mean area, it is significant. With smoothness, it is not significant because it is less than 0.6. It is somewhere between 0.6 and 0 minus. And compactness is also significant because it is exactly at minus 0.6. Okay, so this chart helps us understand relationship between different data, and if those values are significant for the purpose of analysis, or those variables are not significant for the purpose of analysis, we are able to identify that. Okay, so I'm sure this section will be clear to all, but let me take a very quick 10 seconds break. If anybody of you have any doubt, please speak up. Please, this forum is open for your queries. Right, so we will proceed ahead now. As a machine learning steps, if you remember, we know what the problem statement is. We have the data available with us. We have done the exploration of the data. Now the next step is to prepare data for machine learning model. Now when we prepare the data for the model, what we generally do is, suppose if we have 569 rows, we will divide those rows between 80-20, 80% and 20%, where 80% becomes the data to train the model, to teach the model, and 20% of the data becomes to test the model. Okay, so right now what we are doing is, the first step to do that is to differentiate the data between x-axis and the y-axis. Okay, so the target is the x-axis, and all other variables become y. If you remember, this is normal arithmetic. Okay, in arithmetic what we do is x plus y is equal to some formula, mx plus c, which is a linear regression formula. So y is equal to mx plus c becomes a formula where y becomes the target variable and x becomes the all our predictors. So we will first of all prepare x, where we are dropping the target variable from remaining data. Okay, and we are preparing y, where we are only keeping y and removing everything else. So now we have prepared X data, we have prepared Y data. So let me show you here in the variables. If I open the variable X, we have everything else except the target. Okay, we don't have the target here. And if we go to Y, we have target, but we have removed everything X. So this is known as preparing the data for X and Y. Now, once again, we are using the ScienceKit Learn Model Selection, where we are splitting the data between train and test. Okay, so now the data is being split between train and test. For that, we are importing a library, and then we are splitting the data. Okay, so we have prepared Y test, Y train, X test, and X train. So what does it mean is that we have now distributed our data where we have decided that test will be 0.20%. 0.20% will be the test part, and the remaining part, 80%, will be the train part. Okay, and now we have prepared the data. The next step is to feed the data to the machine learning model. Now, to everyone's surprise, to mine surprise as well, when I started this first time, where is the machine learning model in the entire data or in the entire code? So the code is almost, say, let's consider 100 lines. Okay, out of all the 100 lines, the machine learning model are only these 2 lines, just 2 lines, nothing else. Now you will understand that when I said that 70% of the time is spent in preparing the data and doing other things, and not running the machine learning model. The machine learning, whatever we have discussed by now, what we have discussed first day, or whatever you have all heard in the entire 7 days of your seminars, is all this in just 2 lines. Okay, so all the machine learning model is just 2 lines. So now we have run the machine learning model. So this machine learning model is known as SVM. If you remember, we talked about support vector machine. So we are running a model which is known as support vector machine model. So we have run the model. The next step is to fit the model. Okay, so just 2 lines, we have run the entire machine learning model, and now we have the SVM model available with us in just few seconds of time. So it took us say at least 10 to 15 minutes of doing the data part, preparing the data part, and few seconds in developing the model. And that is the power of computing, which I was explaining to you on the first day, that why machine learning and why artificial intelligence now. That's because because SVM is a very complex machine learning model. So the complex support vector machine learning model, we were only able to run in few seconds. That is the power of the, that is how the algorithm are simple now, and the power of computation. So this is the model, but we cannot understand anything here because we are not experts in it. If we were expert, we would be able to understand what are the check-in features, what is the dense predict parameter, what is known as the gamma value. So gamma value actually controls if you are controls the learning of your machine learning model, how close it should learn. So these are some of the characteristics of the machine learning model, and these are known as the hyper tuning parameter. So once we develop the model, the next step is to tune the model to make it more and more accurate and precise. So from here, the next step now is to evaluate the model. Okay, the machine learning part is done. Now testing part is done. We will now evaluate the performance of the model. So to do that, I've run the small code and I've printed the code. Now I will take you back to what we discussed as the confusion matrix. I'm sure all of you would remember confusion matrix, and during confusion matrix we also talked about parameters such as precision and recall. So precision actually talks about like how precise you have predicted. It means if you remember, we talked about true positives, true negatives. So based on those criteria, we are currently looking at the precision and the recall for 0, wherein 0 is our target variable. 0, it means that it is not the malignant cancer, and 1 means the type of tumor is malignant. So for 0, the precision is almost 1. It is accurate. It is perfectly accurate. But for 1, it is almost 0.9. It means to predict. It means the model is predicting if the cancer is not good very well. Okay, if it is not a malignant cancer, then this machine learning model which we have developed will be able to predict it very well. But if it is a cancer, if it is a type of malignant cancer, then the probability is 0.9. It means that 90% times it will predict, but 10% times it may miss, and that's not acceptable to us. Okay, so the next step is to improve the performance of the machine learning model. Okay, I'm sure I'm very clear, wherein we say that 90% of the time it will be able to predict accurately, but 10% of time it will not be able to do accurately. And we want to improve this because that's not acceptable to us in this particular use case. From here, we move on to how do we improve the performance of the model. So to improve the performance of the model, what are we doing is we are actually rearranging. Okay, so if you look at all the values that we have in the data, then some values are 17, some values are 122, some values are 1000, and some values are 0.1. So these are all different variables. They are all supposed to have different values. Okay, so for example, the speed of the vehicle may be 100 kilometers per hour, and the ambient temperature would be somewhere around 30 degrees Celsius. They both are different variables and they cannot have similar values. That's obvious. But then to machine learning, it learns much better if we are able to scale them and if we are able to give values in similar range to the model. So what we have done is we have scaled the variables. Now let me take an example. We will look at text scale. Now if you can see, all the variables here are now in the range of 0.3, 0.7. So it is range between 0 to 1. All the variables are now scaled to 0 to 1, and this is known as scaling the variable. From scaling the variable, we once again given the data to the machine learning model which we had developed, and then we have now predicted. So let's take a look at the performance. If you remember, the performance earlier was somewhere 0.9, and now the performance has improved to 0.94. It means the error rate is 6%. So out of 100 cases, earlier we were only able to predict 90 cases accurate, but now we are able to predict 94 cases accurate, and there is still an error of 6 in the model that we have developed. Now we will try to look at, we will take another step to improve the performance of the model, okay? And we will see if the performance improves or it still remains the same. So we will run the model. Once we run the model, now what we have is similar performance, which is known as a 0.94% precision for one target. It means that with this type of data which is available to us and the type of model that we have used, which is known as support vector machine, the best model that we get right now is with a precision of 0.94. It means 94 cases out of 100, or 94% of the cases will be predicted right, and only 6% of the cases will not be predicted right. So it's upon the medical fraternity now whether to adopt this model or to not adopt this model. Okay, so here we end our today's demonstration. But let us very quickly look at what are the different steps that we have followed in order to reach to how these models are deployed and these models are developed. So starting, we import different types of libraries. These libraries are all open source, and we get it for free from internet. From here, we move on to fetching the data. So once we import the library, the next is to fetch the data. Once we fetch the data, the next step is to do visualization in order to further explore what are all the characteristics, what are all different types of patterns in the data. So you understand, before you put that data into your model, you understand what is the characteristics. If there are some obvious patterns, you can catch them. Okay, So we do visualization. Once we do visualization, the next step is to run correlation chart. Correlation chart really help you to identify key variables for your data. For example, if you have more than 100 to 100 variables, you want to develop a machine learning model, just imagine that the amount of volume of the data it would grow, the volume of or the amount of computation power it would require to run all these models. So in order to optimize accuracy of the model and the performance of the model and the computational power it utilizes, we select the key critical variable and we ignore, based on the thumb rule, any correlation value which is less than 0.6. From here, the next step was to develop the machine learning model. We trained the model, we tested the model, and then we evaluate the model. And then we further improve the performance of the machine learning model. And today, whatever we have seen and whatever data we had, this is the model that we have now predicts with 100% accuracy if the type of tumor is not malignant. But if it is malignant, then it has a precision or an accuracy of 0.94, and there is a 6% error in this data. With this, I'll take a quick pause, and we also end our today's session of looking at the demonstration. We have 3 minutes of time remaining with us. I request all the participants, all the faculty members here, senior faculty members, everybody, I request if you have any queries, anything that you want to understand more, I would be happy to help you. I would be happy to share my experience in this. With this, thank you all. Thank you so much for your patience and time. The forum is now open for your queries and suggestions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sunny, for detailed explanation on the AI and machine learning. You have given, I think, wonderful insight on developing machine learning model and demonstration of the machine learning. So now this session is open for the Q&A. So let us see, is there any question in the chat box?
Can I ask a question, Professor Sufyan?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. Sunny, in my previous work when I was at Bristol Myers Squibb, so we used a lot of R scripts and stuff to, have these, what we call as preliminary plotting and a lot of modeling that we did for drug concentration. So based on that, we did a lot of simulations for clinical trials. So how handy is Python with regards to that in terms of learning that compared to R scripts, which I didn't find very intuitive. It was a little tricky in terms of doing it. What's your thoughts on that, on the learning curve, you would say?
No, so it won't take really more time because the overall concept behind R and Python is all same. And even in my experience, I have larger experience of using R and less on Python. But once we understand that what are libraries, how to import those libraries, what is a data frame, what are the different types of frames. So I think the overall concept of R and Python is same, but functionality wise, both of them are same. Both of them are equally powerful libraries. The only time which we need to spend is learning the syntax. So learning syntax would take a little more time in my experience of learning Python as compared to R. But then overall background, everything is same. It's only the syntax that are different.
Right. I think some of the stuff that you showed essentially is with regards to data handling and with regards to understanding of data. Before we even put any model or do anything with that, I think understanding data is key, and that applies even before going into artificial intelligence and putting that into a model and stuff. So I think that was very informative, and I think all of us who are on this call, especially from the health sciences, should learn a little bit of R scripting or even Python. Sometimes that really gives a lot of different insights with our data. Sometimes we have the data, but we're not able to look at the associations of it. And sometimes with these preliminary or investigative plotting, you come up with some surprising relationships which are hidden essentially within the data essentially.
Yes. So, sir, I want to add to a point that most of the times we are comfortable using Excel as an analysis tool because it's quite handy. Even though Excel is a very powerful tool, but then if we switch on to using R or Python and we switch on using some of the interactive charts which are available here, and we'll be able to derive more value which we today do using Excel. So there are open source interactive plot libraries such as Plotly. Plotly is one of a very famous tool which is open source available, and anybody can put data, start visualizing it, and it is interactive. So I would suggest that if you start exploring, more and more can be derived from the data.
Absolutely, and actually, I think what happens sometimes with academicians, we have very sparse data. So sometimes, you get tempted कि ठीक है सब छोटे 30-40 data points है, so why not we just use Excel? But I think definitely to your point, we should get some skill sets into these. It's a little bit of learning, but once you get the hang of it, it's just amazing what you could do with it essentially. Yes. Yes, over to you, Professor Sufyan, for any further questions. I think this is very interactive and it's very simplified and nicely said. I think this should be followed by a proper workshop for people in health sciences, maybe a 4 or 5 days workshop where we can, you can walk through the basics of it essentially, and then that can be done. Yes, Professor Sufyan, any questions from your end?
Sure. I'm totally agree with the Dr. Sharik that as he has mentioned that it must be followed by a very short workshop because it was very introductory session. So if we can have the workshop, then I think we'll get more detailed insight of the machine learning. So my one question to you, Mr. Sunny, suppose the healthcare professional like us, we are from pharmacy background, and if you want to learn the machine learning or maybe the Python as a language, then how much time it may need?
A very crisp answer would be somewhere between 2 months to 3 months of time.
Okay.
It will totally depend upon the type of background you have. If you have a mathematics background, where you understand what are different data frames, what is a matrix, what are the different types of data that we were discussing right now, then the learning curve will also be very simple, because then we only will have to simply learn the syntaxes. Otherwise, yes, good amount of time will be spent in understanding the basic arithmetics or the mathematics behind this machine learning statistics and different types of matrices, different types of variables. So on an average, if you spend a few hours a day dedicatedly, if you learn that, it would not be so complex to learn this R and Python scripting languages. These are very simple to learn and very powerful to use.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Sunny. So I cannot see any further question in the
I'll just ask one final question. Right? So
fine.
Sunny, essentially, when you look at the data and when you're trying to do a predictive model, one of the key things is to understand the relationship between these variables, the independent variables towards the dependent variable, something that we're trying to predict. What is the relationship that? What are important covariates? So deriving that relationship within that AI model, how do you go about that? I mean, that is very mechanistic understanding. So does the model tries to figure out based on the data, or based on our understanding of the data that we have, we give the lead to the model? Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. So there are two ways we do it. So one way is using statistical techniques such as principal component analysis, correlation analysis, doing hypothesis testing, wherein we try to understand what is the relationship between data. We took an example in the demonstration here where we did it manually. So there are other ways of doing it, wherein the machine learning model itself has the capability to understand if the relationships are there or not. For example, a technique known as principal component analysis. So the principal component analysis has the capability to understand if there is a relationship between the data or not, if some of the data represent the same thing, which is known as duplicate type of variable, then the model has the capability to remove those data as well and only focus on one. So, so there are different techniques starting from basic mathematics to statistics to machine learning models, wherein this relationship can be understood manually by us, but if the number of variables are too large, then we leave it to machine learning model itself to understand it. And when we leave it to machine learning models, sir, as I was discussing earlier, as I was showing it in some of the hyper tuning parameters, for example, this SVM model. So support vector machine is a type of machine learning model wherein these are some of the hyper tuning parameters. So in this hyper tuning parameter, there are ways in which we can assign model to identify those relationships, to remove those duplicate relationship and only select a limited number of variables. So there are many ways these things are taken care in field.
Excellent. Okay, that's very insightful. So I mean, and if we have something that we know essentially mechanistically, we can give to the model, and maybe the model can also refine that. Is that also a possibility?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Okay, Sufyan, so I'm done here.
Can I add 2 more points, Arunjit, here?
Yes, Arunjit.
Sunny, with your permission. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I just want to add 2 more things. Like, people were asking how much time will be take to actually learn Python or R, right? See, typically when I do a machine learning project in the industry, there are various team members. Okay, you have a domain expert who is actually coming from, say, the healthcare industry, who actually can understand the data. And there is a group of technical guys who will actually do the coding. So there's a lot of interaction happening between the domain expert and the technical guys to understand the data, and based on that, writing the algorithms. So it's not necessary that everybody in the team has to run R or Python. It's basically your skill set. So if you are a domain guy, you remain domain, and you can really contribute to providing validity the data, to contribute to the, as Sunny said, 70% of the time goes in data preparation. That's where the domain expert comes into picture. So that is one important thing. The second I wanted to talk about, Sunny talked to you about the SVC model, right? Where he showed the concept of precision and recall and the accuracy. But typically in industry, what happens, he just showed the SVC model. But generally, when we do it in industry, we run all the models. We try this, we try naive-based theory, we try some kernel machine. There are various models we use, and we try to see which is the model which best suits that data to give the highest precision of the recall, right? So it's not just, we just showed you one example, but we can always try different models and see the one with this specific data, which model works the best. So this is how we actually do. I hope, Sunny, I'm talking the right direction.
Absolutely. Thanks for adding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. You brought a very important point here, because what happens is when we talk to our students that, let's say, they want to have a career into data sciences, what we're trying to say is them, you don't need to become a computer engineer now. After spending 4 years into pharmacy, we're not trying to push you into computer sciences, but rather we want you to equip you in a way that you understand at least the data, and you bring that insights to that team, because a computer engineer is not understanding what a cancer dynamics is in terms of the cell biology and everything, right? So I think the idea is to complement each other's skills.
That's
enough
right.
that we understand each other's language. So I understand, let's say when Sunny's talking to me in terms of data, I understand what he is asking from me, what he wants from the model essentially in terms of the insights, and then at his end he's running the model as such. So I think that's an important point here. As a pharmacy or as a healthcare professionals, if we were to guide our students, or even ourselves, we want to collaborate, we don't need to become experts data scientists as such, but to have a basic understanding of what it can do and what it is, that will really add value to the team and add value to the core project team which they are doing. Because these days, if you look at all these projects, if you look at US and these global countries and some of these people who had come for our talk here, essentially, you look at their team, it's such a diverse team. You have MD physicians, you have biostatisticians, you have core biologists in those teams essentially. So though all of them are talking to each other in the language that is understandable to each other, and that is how in a multidisciplinary team you get something out which is impactful, which can go out and change the society as such. So I think that's a valid point that you drive, and I think for us also we should keep in mind, sometimes in academics we suffer from this disease which I call the siloism. So ठीक है, मैं एक domain का expert हूँ, मैं इसी में जीऊँगा और इसी में मरूँगा. And I think we need to get out from that essentially and talk cross disciplines, and that is where that research can translate into something which is valuable, I think. Okay, I think I'm done here essentially. Professor Abu Sufyan, it's over to you.
Okay, sir. Shall we close this session, sir? Because I think our second session will be starting at 6:30 p.m. and I think this person is not joined, so we'll be having
we'll give a break for 20 minutes. Yeah,
okay.
So you can make accordingly announcement so that people are coming in time essentially. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sunny, once again for your very insightful session. Our next resource person will join the session at 6:30 p.m. So till the time our resource person join the session, we will take a short break of 15 minutes. You can stay on a Zoom, but session will start at 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
Sunny.
you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Sharik sir. Am I audible?
Good evening, madam. Good evening. So we have taken a break of some 15 minutes. So participants will be coming back by 6:30. So we'll start session after that.
Okay, sir.
So meanwhile, would you like to share your screen? So
yes, I'll try to share the screen.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
I will make you a co-host.
Yes, sir. Sharik sir, is my screen visible?
Yes, yes, it is visible, madam.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Dr. Sharik, shall we start the session? Okay, I think we'll start with our second session of today's refresher program. So going ahead, today we have the next session on the machine learning and image processing. For this session, we have with us Dr. Deepa Parsar. I take this opportunity to introduce her. Dr. Deepa Parsar, currently working as Associate Professor and Departmental Coordinator of Computer Science and Engineering Department in School of Engineering and Technology of Amity University, Mumbai. She has teaching experience of over 17 years. Her area of interest is machine learning, image processing, natural language processing, and deep learning. She worked on research proposals sanctioned by BRNS and Mumbai University. She has 1 granted, 3 published, and 1 filed patent, and 34 research papers to her credits. Thank you, Dr. Deepa Parsar, for joining us. I extend my warm welcome to you and request you to start with your session.
Thank you, Sharik sir.
Welcome.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to deliver a talk on machine learning for the health informatics. It's an opportunity for me.
Welcome.
Good evening, everyone, and I would like to welcome you all to the today's session on machine learning for health informatics. Health informatics. This is a term which is in current scenario, as we can see, for the today's pandemic situation, very much required and awareness is much needed for it. But why we need to involve the technology in the health? Already so much of involvement has been, development has been done in the field of technology, in the field of healthcare itself. But now the time has came and already so many development already has been done, but still we need to embed both the technologies for combinedly for all the latest development in terms of engineering and science with respect to the healthcare, because when both of these fields are going to combinedly work, there will be a lot of development in this medical field, and it is going to help the clinicians, other health professionals, and the patients in saving their time, doing the diagnosis properly, and getting caring of the disease at the time. So machine learning, this is the very emerging and latest, fastest growing technology in the field of computer science. And health informatics, this is a biggest challenge, we can say it is a greatest challenge application for machine learning to get applied in the terms of the field of medical field, where we need to diagnose the diseases, where we need to do the proper prediction for the diseases with respect to the available parameters, computer-aided diagnosis systems, and prediction in terms of the pharmaceutical development. So machine learning for health informatics is a very emerging field and it needs a lot of development also. So in today's session,
Madam, you are muted.
Am I audible now, sir?
Yes, yes. Now you are audible. Thank you.
Yeah. So in today's session, we will see what health informatics actually deals with, what are the parameters which are related to the clinical decision making, which are the important parameters related to the health informatics, what is a medical imaging, how computer-aided diagnosis system works, and if we want to pursue any research in this field, how we can apply our research theme into the computer-aided diagnosis. Machine learning in health informatics, different application related to it, and I'll try to show a small demo for the project which my student have developed for the disease prediction project. Starting with the health informatics, which is also called as a health information system, relies on information technology. People working in this field organize and analyze health records to improve healthcare outcomes. They also develop methods to gather, analyze, and implement the patient solutions using existing resources and devices. They must store, retrieve, and try to find some information, very valuable information from those data which they have collected, so that a prediction model or the proper diagnosis of the things can be done. So they build a communication protocol within the system of the facilities where they are working. Either it can be within a hospital premise, or it can be a diagnosis center or a scanning areas. They try to ensure that doctors, nurses, and other professionals should have quick, easy, and efficient access to the medical records, which can help them further to easify their work in terms of the diagnosis to the patients. So health informatics, it can be applied with the computer field, and it will lead to the development in the field of a medicine with respect to the healthcare, health education, and health research. So we can summarize that health informatics is a branch of the science which is concerned with the use of computers and communication technology to acquire, store, analyze, communicate, and display medical information and knowledge to facilitate understanding and improve the accuracy, timeliness, and reliability of a decision-making process. So with respect to the health informatics, the first important parameter which is needed to be understood is clinical decision-making process. So clinical decision-making process, this is the way in which all the clinicians are going to make their decisions. CDM, this is being defined as a contextual, continuous, and evolving process where the data needs to be gathered, interpreted in a proper format, and then evaluation of the interpreted data in order to select some evidence-based choice of actions. And these evidence-based choice of actions are further analyzed by the respective clinicians to do their diagnosis. So the CDM is a process which is highly complex, multifaceted skill that is where every time it is going to be developmental in nature in terms, because whenever we are collecting the data, each time when we interact with a different kind of patients, different kind of scenarios or the case studies, the data which we have gathered is going to vary. So they need to face an enormous amount of data, but it is not compulsory that the data which we are facing through, we are interacting is going to give us a valuable information. We have to analyze the data properly so that a proper information can be analyzed from the data, because there can be some vague informations also which can be present because there is an enormous amount of data presentable to us. Even if we want to analyze the data presented to us in the research field of this health informatics, there also multiple amount of data is there. So to analyze that data, which one is valuable and required by us is a big task. So clinical decision making also goes through some issues related to it, where it can be related to the analysis of data, because when it is going to be analyzed manually, we are not a perfect data processor. We humans are not so well analyzed or so well equipped with our brain system. We can analyze the data so perfectly in a smaller span of time. So to analyze these data, the data needs to be very precise and very qualitative in order. So we are sensitive to the quantity and organization of information. So if the data is presented to us in a proper format and in a very precise order, we can easily analyze it. But if it is not presented in a proper way, then it will be difficult for us to analyze the data of that order. Like for example, as we can consider, if we are providing some information to the army officers and pilots, but the data is not in a proper way, we have provided an enormous amount of data, they won't be able to analyze that data. It can lead to a fatal errors to them. This fatal error can happen with respect to the clinicians also, if we are not going to provide the data to them in a precise order, in a proper format. There the role comes for analyzing the data in a proper way. So these are the few issues which needs to be handled while making a clinical decisions. As humans are not perfectible in a data processors, so clinicians are facing the issue of the enormous amount of data, and the expectations are more from them that they should properly analyze the data in a proper way and they should give us a proper result also. So it is difficult for them to do this task in a smaller span of time, and at the same time when they are handling other administrative tasks also, because day by day the tasks allocated to them are getting increased with respect to the increase in number of cases, number of different types of problems and the patients. So all these things need to be handled, and for this we need to make a proper clinical decision making. Moving on to the different domains which are available for the health informatics are, we have the domains like, suppose we are working as a human, a task has been given to us and we need to analyze the proper data. As a human being without any support, if only one person is going to work on it with respect to their experience, their knowledge, whatever they have in their respective field, it will be difficult for them to make a precise decision. But if the same thing is being presented to them with some of the latest technologies, like with respect to the artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, all these new computational ways in which data can be analyzed, because nowadays data are the main thing, they are working as an asset for us. So if the human brain technology is combined with the latest technologies, they are going to give us a very good result in terms of the analysis. So this is a very fundamental theory for the informatics, and for the informatics we have so many other fields like imaging informatics. Imaging informatics, this is also known as radiology informatics or medical imaging informatics. This field deals with the improvement in terms of efficiency, accuracy, usability, and reliability of medical imaging services within the healthcare enterprise. So imaging informatics task is to deal with the medical imaging, the way of grabbing the imaging and the way to handle those images. Clinical informatics. Clinical informatics is the study where the data of the clinical data is available to them, how to apply the latest AI technologies, machine learning technologies to those clinical data to do the proper analysis. Nursing informatics. Nursing informatics, this is an information science which is going to get integrated with the nursing, where the task is to extract the information and knowledge with respect to management of those information and knowledge technology to promote the welfareness of the health of people, families, and the communities worldwide. Consumer health informatics. Consumer health informatics examines patient information from point of view such as how illiterate is a patient, how much literacy he have with consumer knowledge and their education. Here the purpose is to extract the information with their healthcare preferences to make a tailor-made medical experience for them. That is, it is more consumer oriented. Public health informatics. Public health informatics that deals with the effective use of information and the current technologies to improve the population health outcome. How to deal with the population health outcomes? For there we are going to use the public health informatics. Dental informatics. This field, as with the name suggests, it is going to be combined with the current technology with respect to the dental field, and dental informatics provides applications, and tools for clinical practice in terms of diagnosis of oral diseases, prescription, and indications of certain medicines in the patients. Clinical research informatics. This involves the use of the informatics in terms of discovery and management of the knowledge which is available to them in terms of clinical trial, and also it involves informatics related to the secondary use of those clinical data. So like for example, if new type of patients are coming to them with some new symptoms as the COVID-19 case arise in the December 2019, that time when the new symptoms were arising for the different type of patients, so analysis and research for these type of newly available data is going to come under the clinical research informatics. Bioinformatics. This is the field of science which is similar but not much distinct as compared to the biological computation. Oftenly we used to get some similarity between bioinformatics and biological computation, but they are working as a different field. So bioinformatics mainly deals with the computational biology, where we need to analyze the way where we can understand how the biological things are going to work, how we can analyze the genetic things. The research related to analysis of the genetic theories are going to come under the bioinformatics field. So these were the few different subdomains of the health informatics. Medical imaging, very important term, because these nowadays the research work is getting continued more in the field of medical imaging. We are aware that the cases for multiple scenarios, CT scan, X-rays, cancer images, these are increasing. So how to analyze these images and how to work on these kind of images further. So medical imaging is used for gathering the image or acquiring the image from the human body, which can help us in diagnosis and the treatment of the patients. It can also be used to track any ongoing issues, and with the help of these track which we have done, we have analyzed, the clinicians who have analyzed those parameters, they can use these things to do the treatment of the patient properly in a well organized way. So the medical imaging is going to be concerned with the interaction of all forms of radiation with the tissue and the development of appropriate technology to extract clinically useful information, which is going to be displayed in the image form, and to analyze the valuable information from those images. Sources for these images can be the different ways in which we are going to gather them. Either it can be structural anatomical information or information about the different functions. These are the several examples for the different medical images, like X-ray images, CT scan images, or the ultrasound images, PET images, three-dimensional images. All these are different forms of images on which we can apply our research, and we can help the clinicians to analyze the data from these images by extracting the features and from analyzing our knowledge and experience which we have already read or understood from the previous data which was available to us. The imaging chain, how the images are grabbed and how they are further used to analyze some output. So images are going to be acquired through the specific image grabbing devices. Further, we need to remove the noises present in those images. So from the raw data, the image which is being presented to us, we need to apply the different type of filter on it. So image processing concept comes here, where through the different types of filter which are available to us, we are trying to remove the noises from those images. While doing the removal of noises, there can be some misplacement of the pixels. So we need to do the reconstruction of the data which was given to us after removing the noises. And then the image which is being processed till now, this part of the filtering and reconstruction is called as the data pre-processing of an image. So when pre-processing task of the image is being done, further we need to do the task of the segmentation, identification of the region of interest from the image, from where we can analyze the respective important part from where the data can be extracted for the analysis task. So after processing, we are going to do the analysis work. Through analysis, the quantitative output is being gathered. Quantitative output can be in terms of prediction of a disease or some values. It will depend upon the scenario of the case study for which we are going to apply this. Image analysis, as we have seen in the previously, that in the image chain, that image analysis is the portion where we are going to identify the features. Through the features, we can identify what can be the chances of a possible disease or the respective values which we want to identify from the given case study. So for the image analysis, our task is to identify the qualitative features and the quantitative features. So at the preliminary stage, we are going to identify all the features which are present in that particular image. Through those features, it will be the task of our model, the prediction model, which is going to be developed, that it is going to identify which are the important features which need to be analyzed further so that there can be a good prediction model will be designed. So it is not compulsory that as many features we are extracting from the image, all those features will be further used for the development of the model. So there the role comes importantly for the model classification and the person who is developing these models to analyze these features properly, to check out which ones are the important ones and which one can be skipped. Moving on to the major advances in the medical imaging. So when we have seen the different flow of the image chain and how it is going to work, there are the several medical advances stages like image segmentation, classification, computer-aided diagnosis system. If we want to develop a computer-aided diagnosis system, what characteristics should we try to embed there? What is the meaning of the content-based image retrieval? So these are the few points which are needed to be understood in terms of knowing the medical imaging and if we want to apply for any respective case studies. So medical image segmentation. This is very important and it's going to play a very vital role in terms of the computer-aided diagnosis. Depending upon the different applications, either it can be the classification for the tumors or it can be the classification for the different ultrasound images. Image segmentation is going to play a very important role. It has a very vast and development of these medical image modalities like your X-ray images, ultrasound images, CT scan images, or any other medical image. We have to properly find out which can be the respective segmentation algorithm suitable for the respective type of medical image, and accordingly it can be applied to identify the region of interest from those images. So extraction of the region of interest from those images through the CAD system, it should be an automatic process, and it is going to divide our image into different areas, and the areas are based upon the specification and description provided through our segmentation algorithm. And the task is to segment the body organs or the tissues in the provided medical image to identify the respective borders or to detect for the tumors and or for detection for any masses present in the medical images. So medical image segmentation plays a very important role for the identification of the ROI. Next comes the role for the medical image classification. Image classification, as the classification means knowing the thing where they are going to lie in the respective class. So when we have done the task of segmentation, we have identified our region of interest. Region of interest is going to tell me the important features and the valuable parameters which needed to be placed for the respective alignment of the prediction model. So medical image classification is the most important task performed by the image processing in the field of medical image diagnosis, where they help the doctors in disease diagnosis or to pursue the further research. During medical image classification, the first task will be to extract effective features from the image. The second step after extracting the features will be to analyze these features to build the model that is going to classify our image dataset being presented to us. Prior, what doctors used to do, they used to build the models from the provided dataset from their previous knowledge, whatever the knowledge they had with different cases which they have seen in their working experience areas. From there, they used to analyze this. But nowadays, through the CAD and with respect to the different image classification algorithms available to us, either through the machine learning or deep learning, the task has been simplified for these clinicians and doctors. They can easily use this built-in system to do the task of the medical image classification. And this helps the medical doctors to diagnose the diseases more accurately. Computer-aided diagnosis systems. So computer-aided diagnosis is made by the radiologist when the output of computerized image analysis method has been incorporated into his or her medical decision-making process. Prior, the first point which we have seen is the clinical decision-making. So through the computer-aided diagnosis, the clinical decision-making process is added a value to it and it is giving a more accurate result. CAD may be interpreted broadly to incorporate both the detection of the abnormality task and the classification task, which is related to, for example, the finding out the likelihood that any tumor being presented to us is belonging to the category of malign or not. So these can be the different ways in which the CAD can be applied. Why we need to go for a CAD system? What is the motivation to develop the CAD system for the different types of application? The amount of image, the data acquired during acquiring image is becoming overwhelming for the human vision. Means an enormous amount of data nowadays is available to us. And to analyze those data with the human vision for the radiologist is becoming very difficult. So to handle these overloaded data, if we have some automated systems, they are going to help us a lot. And the different areas where this computer-aided diagnosis is mostly used and more research needed to be done are breast cancer, identification of a breast cancer, lung cancer, and colon cancer. So these are the different places where already computer-aided diagnosis systems have been developed, but still few modification and further modifications are required because they are getting updated with the new types of data set, the different types of features present in those data set images. So the development of these models are required there. If we want to develop any computer-aided diagnosis system, what characteristics and in which manner should we proceed? We should set our research hypothesis for it. The working hypothesis is that certain radiologist assessments can be mapped to the most important low-level image features. So initially, we should know what our task is and how it has to be performed. We need to know it in a proper way, and accordingly, the low-level image features and the importance in terms of diagnosis system need to be identified. Accordingly, our hypothesis has to be set. Methodology which we need to apply. We are having enormous amount of machine learning algorithms related to the supervised category, unsupervised category. So depending upon the case study, we need to identify, we have to select the algorithm belonging to the supervised machine learning algorithm or unsupervised one. Supervised one, we are going to select when it is known to us that what can be the possible labels in which we are going to categorize our data values. If the categorization of data values, the labels which need to be allocated to them is not predefined or not known to us, in that case, we will proceed with the unsupervised machine learning algorithms. So to set up methodology, we can work out with the new semi-supervised machine learning approaches, which are recently being used, and they are helpful to deal with both the inter-observer variability and the small set of label data. Like for example, if we have annotated lung nodules to handle these type of cases, these algorithms can work very well. Proposed learning approach should be based on an ensemble of classifiers. Instead of working with a single classifier as our previous CAD systems are working, we can try out with the ensemble of classifiers. So many classifiers are there. So we need to check down with respect to which classifier our algorithm is working well for the given data set. More accuracy we are getting in terms of the classification task. Further, for expected outcome, an optimal set of quantitative diagnostic features linked to the visual descriptors has to be defined well. So whatever the outcome we are expecting, it should be properly mapped with respect to the image dataset provided to us and the features which we are planning to extract and to place them into the respective classes. Significance for the developed models should be the derived mappings can serve to show the computer interpretation of the corresponding radiologist rating in terms of a set of standard and objective image features. And it should be capable to handle any new data which is available to us, so that it means it should not work only well with the trained type of images. There are chances that we can interact with the new values of the images with some different category, but they can belong to the similar type of diseases. So our classification model should be capable to work with newly arrived images also. They can be different from our trained models, but they should be able to accept those images also. The challenges which we can face in designing our computer-aided characterizations can be, there can be small number of training sample, because this is very known to us. To work on a research project which is related to the healthcare systems, it's really difficult to get the real-time data. We need to interact properly with hospitals and the medical schools so that we can get the proper accurate data on which we can start our research, and our outcome can be well verified from them, and it can be authenticated that the work which we have done is giving us a proper result. So when we are working with a smaller amount of data, and with respect to that data, if we are extracting the features and based upon those features, if we're designing our prediction model, this can lead to a problem known as a curse of dimensionality, where it won't be possible to accept the new sample points, and if those sample points are having some feature values different from the one with respect to that we have trained our model will not be capable to give the good result and good accuracy, or you can say it is a very sensitive area in terms of medical field. It won't give us the proper assessment of the diseases. So it can lead to a greater problems here. So it is a great challenge there that we should have our proper data set. It should be the sufficient amount to train our model so that we can see the developed model can work well for all the newly presented data values. Nodule size, depending upon the very small size of the image data set. So the size of your nodule can be big or small. It should be capable to work with all the sizes of the images presented to us. Proper extraction of boundaries should be there, because boundaries are required to be extracted while doing the segmentation task, then only the specific area of interest, because when the image is grabbed, it can be grabbed for the larger portion of a human body, but for analysis of the data from that, analysis of the respective disease from that image, it needs to extract the specific reason, and for this we need to properly specify the boundaries. Different types of image acquisition parameters can be there. So it has to be set properly in which way we want to acquire the image and which mode of image is well suitable for the work. Clinical evaluation. It deals with the observer performance studies. Require collaboration with the medical schools and the hospitals to get our work evaluated properly through them, so that it can get authenticated that the respective research work carried out is giving us a proper result. So this was related to computer aided diagnosis system development. If we want to pursue any work in this field, how we can set our goal and we try to achieve, and we can overcome these challenges to get a better predictive model related to the diagnosis of a disease. Moving on to content-based image retrieval system. Content-based image retrieval, this term applies to techniques for retrieving similar images from image databases. So when we have trained our images, and from the image, if we want to retrieve some image for some mapping purpose or for some verification purpose, there the role comes for the content-based image retrieval. And this is based on automated feature extraction method. In the last few years, this field has emerged a lot. It has grabbed also a lot of attention for generating a lot of interest in terms of methods and tools which can be developed to control the analysis of the medical images. So different areas where this field content-based image retrieval is applied in the field of teaching, in field of research, diagnosis task, and electronic patient records, where we want to extract the data, because nowadays all the things in the hospitals and other healthcare system are moving toward EHR, that is electronic health records, to where we want to map the data, and when we want to extract some information about the previous history of the patient, there the content-based image retrieval system needs to be properly understood. So how the CBIR is going to work? Usually in the CBIR system, for each image, there is a feature which we are going to extract from it. So we call it as a signature of those pixel values which are present in that image. So this signature is going to serve as an image representation, a very important role. And the components of the signature are called as the features. So a rule has been developed. We have to set some rules so that the features which we have extracted, from those features, some valuable information can be gathered. So a rule for comparing images is defined there, and it is being defined from the retrieving images so that the match can be performed from the given query image. And this query image is going to be presented to the large set of images, and the respective image features are being mapped. After checking for the similarity feature, then from the feedback algorithm, the algorithm which is there for matching those features and doing the analysis task, the work will be done and it is going to give us the result. The main reason for using this signature feature is to improve the correlation that is between the presented image and the semantic rules which we have designed. And this is getting done by mapping one or several signatures to d-dimensional points in some metric space, which is used to build the index of all the previous signatures of the respective images which were stored in our database. And so whenever a query image is being presented to us, through those signature points, we can do the fast retrieval. And to mapping these things, we can also use the different distance measures. In machine learning, we have the different distance measured things like Euclidean distance, Manhattan distance, Chebyshev distance. These are the different distance measures, and it can be used to find the similarity between the feature of the query image and the stored semantic rules with respect to the image presented in the database. So this was related to the working of the content-based image retrieval. Moving on to the role where machine learning comes for the CAD and how the image analysis is getting done. And overall, this is an overall pattern for the computer-aided diagnosis system, how it is going to work with respect to use of the machine learning algorithms. Like, consider an application. We are working with either a breast image or thoracic images, and we want to do the classification task on it for the evaluation, whether they are going to belong to which category. So there will be the first task needed to be performed on them will be segmentation of the respective organs. If it is a breast images or thoracic images, then moving on to the breast, or otherwise moving to lungs or related to the colon cancer, then colon organ segmentation will be done. Afterwards, if any abnormality, that the region of interest, after identifying them through the region of interest, if we are identifying any abnormality, those particular nodule or polyps needed to be identified, and from those specific region we will extract the features. And these features category can be of texture type, shape type, geometrical properties. So we can select any one of the respective feature categories and we can work with them. And further, we are going to do the classification task on them. Through the classification, it can belong to the malignant category or the benign category. So based upon that, this analysis will be done there. And after doing the classification task, when we found that it is going to belong to which respective category, malignant or benign, the evaluation and interpretation of those respective values will be done for the analysis task. And these all tasks are getting done by the radiologist and the clinicians. And through this, their task is going to be very much simplified. And mostly they are going to give us the accurate result. Sometimes it needs to be updated with respect to new values of the dataset provided to them. Now, how machine learning is going to poised to become a transformational force in health informatics. We have seen few examples which was related to health informatics, some image processing, also few ML algorithms have been applied. But nowadays, for all the research works, we are trying to do our work faster in a smaller span of time and with a better and accurate results. So there, a machine learning is going to play a very important role. But how? How the providers and the patients are going to be benefited from the impact of the ML-driven tools. So machine learning is going to simplify the task of the life of the patient, doctors, other hospital administrators by using the different multiple amount of algorithms available to them, which are used for the finding out the respective values or performing the classification task or unsupervised learning algorithms. So enormous amount of algorithms which are available to us through the machine learning, but to analyze them and how to properly use them for the respective case studies. So this has to be done, and through machine learning, all these tasks are getting performed and in the very less amount of time with much accuracy and with the less cost also. Why we need machine learning in health informatics? Because it is going to give us a more accurate clinical decisions. We have seen few issues related to the clinical decision. The issues were related because enormous amount of data was presented to the clinicians. They were having less amount of time to analyze those data. They were busy with some other task also. So if we are having the machine learning algorithms or the model develop or system develop with respect to the machine learning rules, it will be easy for them to make the clinical decisions. Critical considerations can be done, like it is possible that through the human eye analysis, we can miss out some important features or we can miss out some important values, but through the technology, we will go through each and every minute detail presented to us. It is definitely going to improve the efficiency because in the smallest span of time, it can analyze a very huge amount of data and can give us the result in small time. It can help us to detect the diseases early in the early detection. Like sometimes it may happen that we are suffering from disease, but some symptoms are not shown to us. So we are considering nothing can happen to us. So as a regular checkup, we can develop few applications where we can provide some parameter values for the analysis of those diseases, so that at the early stage only we can come to know that the particular patient is suffering from a disease, so that the precautionary measure can be taken from the early stage and the life of the patient can be saved. Round the clock digital assistance, we are having so many applications nowadays which can be helpful for us to provide the disease assistance in terms of the medical field. Definitely the cost is reduced because technology has evolved. So many things are available to us like chatbot, mobile apps, different websites through which we can analyze the things and we can get the delivery of the medicine, or we can contact the doctors also remotely. So many facilities are available to us with respect to the latest technologies. So because of all these facilities, the medical cost has been reduced. So this was related to why we need machine learning in health informatics, and it's going to cover all the different medical fields. Moving on to the different applications which are there with respect to the machine learning in health informatics. It can help the telehealth. It can help to pursue the research in medical field. It can help the different clinicians, health professionals, doctors, hospitals, patients to go through this by using the ML in the healthcare informatics, and it can simplify their task. So machine learning in health informatics, one of the best application is the electronic health records. Electronic health records, it is playing a very important role nowadays, as we know that all the hospitals and every healthcare system is digitized. So what they are doing, they are maintaining all the records of the patient, medical history of the patient, or passed over time, or if any new patient is coming, all the details they are going to maintain in the electronic digital format. And it includes all the key administrative clinical data which is relevant to the person who is coming under a particular doctor or going under particular diagnosis, or for a specific radiologist. All the minute detail related to their past surgery, their past medical history, immunization details, laboratory data, radiology reports, everything is going to be maintained in a digitized form, in the form of the electronical data. So EHR automates the access to information and has the potential to streamline the clinical workflow. The EHR also supports the work and simplifies the decision support system. It maintains a very good quality for the management to give the response in a smaller amount of time, and outcomes the reporting process faster. As we have seen for the EHR, as everything is getting maintained in a digitized form, in an electronic form, so definitely enormous data is there. So how to maintain the data? Storage of data is also required. So through big data and through the cloud system, we are going to store all this data, and the data will be managed, and as it is available on a cloud, from anywhere, any health professional can access the data, so that whatever the facility required by the respective patients can be made available to them. And also, at the same time, as we are keeping the very sensitive information about the patient, that is their medical history records, so we need to provide the security also to these data. So now the research is getting evolved in this field to provide this cloud available data security in terms of cloud. Also, blockchain can be combined with the cloud technology to secure the data which is available for the patients in the cloud form. Moving on to further other applications which nowadays every time we all are using, like healthcare bots. The benefit for the healthcare bots is these chat bots are the softwares which are using the concept of the machine learning and natural language processing, so that any user can interact in their own way to these bots, and these bots can help them to diagnose the things. They can provide the support to the patient at the same time. No need to wait for a longer time. You might be through this bot, the doctors, it can help the doctors to know their patient before the patient arrives to them, so that the time of interaction with the patient can be reduced, and the time for serving the patient, that also time can be reduced. It is a best data collector because it can help for the research work with different available data to them for the different kinds of patient. Also, it can help anyone to, if anyone is suffering from a stress or depression and they don't want to disclose it to anyone, these type of chatbots can help to overcome these things. They can interact in their own way, and their data can also be kept secretly to them also. For the skincare problems also, these healthcare bots are working very well nowadays. Precision medicine, a very important term nowadays, and this is an emerging field also with respect to the disease treatment and prevention, how we are going to prevent with respect to precision medicine for a specific patient. Like prior, the thinking was, or the working pattern was, one size fits all. This approach was usually used in terms of the medicinal field, but nowadays through the precision medicine, this approach, precision medicine approach, allows the doctors and researchers to predict more accurately which kind of treatment and prevention strategy is well for the respective patient, and through this they can do the analysis for the patient, their history, and they can provide them the precision medicine that according to the patient the medicines can be designed, the configuration, the constituency for the medicines can be done, and it takes into account the individual variability in terms of their genes, environment, their lifestyle, their working pattern. All these parameters are considered for the precision medicine. And for this precision medicine, artificial intelligence and machine learning is playing a very important role. Telemedicine. Telemedicine's the way in which it gives the features to the user where they can interact with their doctors without meeting them, and it gives the practice of caring for the patient remotely when the provider and the patient are not physically present to each other. So the benefit of the telemedicine is that they can share the information, the physicians and the patients, they can share the information in the real time from one computer screen to the another, and at the same time they can also forward their medical readings, like if they have done some laboratory testing, some values are there for their blood test and all that, they can provide from a faraway location, and same time the physician can analyze and provide them the medicine or the respective measures which need to be taken to diagnose the disease and to help to overcome for their treatment process. They don't have to wait for a longer time for their treatment. That is the benefit for the telemedicine. Mobile health apps. So many mobile health apps are available to us which needs to collect and monitor the clinical data, and these data are collected in a real time for the patient, and at the same time they are getting analyzed by the healthcare professionals and helping them for the treatment purpose. A large number of these type of applications are existing nowadays, and in this pandemic situation when we try to avoid going outside, this is going to help us a lot to through the mobile health apps we can get benefited through it. And the focus for this type of applications are mostly on the direct contact to the doctors, building a proper communication between the patient and a doctor. Sometimes they can also provide us with respect to giving some guidelines for the exercise, giving some guidelines with respect to the meal plans, monitoring our health parameters if we are wearing some health wearable devices, so how to monitor them, whatever the parameter values being read through those healthcare devices, are they in a proper range or not. So these mobile apps are helping them to get benefited in our health, either communicating through the doctor or without communicating through the doctor also, they are helping us a lot. Machine learning is being chosen a very important term for health informatics in the field of research. So AI/ML, both of these are playing a very important role in the pharma industry also with respect to the drug discovery and clinical trials. So drug discovery and development, these are working parallelly to each other with respect to the machine learning, and the approach of machine learning in this field will be to provide a set of tools that is going to improve the discovery, and it will help in the decision making process for well specified questions related to the quality of a data, related to stages of the drug discovery, which can target the validation, identification of the respective disease, whether it's working, that particular drug is working well for the disease or not, analyzing the digital pathology in terms of the clinical trial. For all these things, the machine learning for in this research area is working a lot. Machine learning in terms research in terms of health informatics for the genetic research, machine learning helps the researchers to interpret the genetic variation. Genetic variation, they are going to analyze our gene pattern, they are going to analyze our DNA, they can see how the human cloning can be done, and the specific algorithms can be designed based on the patterns after identifying the genetic data which are present for a human, and it can be translated to the computer model to help the client to interpret the genetic variation which can affect our cellular process also. So for the cellular process, they can do the study for the metabolism, they can do the study for our DNA, how the growth of the cell is happening. All these parameters can be considered and it can be studied well. The pattern can be identified for the genetic research in the health informatics. So we can say that the machine learning in terms of the health informatics, it is going to be the next consumer revolution, because health informatics technology is the application of information processing involving both computer and hardware and software, which is going to deal with the storage of a data, analysis of a data, extraction of knowledge from those data, so that the decision making process can work well and give the better accuracy. For patients and consumers, this transformation is going to enhance the relationship between them by providing the better relationship at the very less amount of time at the smaller cost without any delay. Numerous technologies and tools are becoming available to improve the health for us, our family, and our community through the machine learning technologies. Most consumers are getting benefited through the information technology in the healthcare field through the electronic health record, which is simplifying the task of the practitioners, healthcare professionals, doctors, and the hospitals. And even for nowadays, for the government also, that this task is getting simplified through the EHR, not only with respect to the medical field. If we have some insurance or we want to get it verified through the insurance company for the payment of bill and all, there also these health information technology things can be applied, and the task for the patients can be simplified. So in this way, machine learning is going to help a lot in the field of the health informatics. Moving on to some of the limitations, as we know that when we are developing the things, we also have some drawbacks for it. How there can be some limitations where it won't be able to work well for health informatics. Machine learning cannot solve all the issues in health. As we know, there can be app, through that app we can, if we are in depression or we are not feeling good, we can convey. But as much a human sympathy is required, that much a machine can't do for us. Similarly, for treatment of any disease, as we say, the touch of a doctor relieves a patient a lot. So in a similar way, machine learning, they are ultimately the machines. The things can be developed, they can do the prediction, they can help us in the treatment of a disease at the early stage, but still they cannot solve all the issues in the related to our health. Implementation of machine learning is true challenge in the medical field, because as we have discussed prior also, that to gather the data, to analyze that data, to work with the real-time data is really difficult, because if we are working only for a smaller set of data, definitely our model is not going to be a good model in terms of the prediction of the diseases. Better regulations to control applications of machine learning in healthcare, because when technology is involved, we need some set of regulations which can control the technologies there. Predictive variables may not be statistically significant. Bioethics and machine learning, these points need to be taken care there. Machine cannot replace the empathy. Very well said by anyone that as a human can empathize someone, the same thing can't be done by machine, and it will never be done. The feel, the touch, it matters a lot to get healed. So definitely these are few of the limitations of the machine learning which needed to be overcome. And even we have the good technologies available to us, we need our healthcare professionals to get trained to become competent to use all these technologies, so that the benefits which we can get from them can be utilized well. So this was all related to the machine learning implications in terms of the health informatics. I hope I have delivered the basic information related to all this and given you all a very basic knowledge how machine learning is going to play a very vital role in the health informatics. I would like to give you some view regarding an overview of one of the project which my students have developed for the disease prediction model based on the machine learning. They have developed, these are the second year engineering students for the computer science, and they have developed this model for the prediction of a heart disease and the diabetes. So they have developed a dashboard. Through the dashboard, the patients need to enter some information related to their heart disease prediction or the diabetes prediction. So if we are going to select for the heart disease prediction, we need to enter some parameters. Heart disease test form will be displayed, and they need to enter the parameter like age, sex, chest pain type, resting blood pressure, serum cholesterol, fasting blood sugar, resting ECG, maximum heart rate, ST depression induced, exercises induced angina, slope of the peak exercise ST segment, number of vessels colored by fluoroscopy, thalassemia. So based upon these parameters, they have applied 6 different classification algorithms, and they selected the one with the better result. So they have compared, they tried to use the ensemble classification algorithm by doing the trial and error. Whichever algorithm is giving the better accuracy result, they have selected that one for the heart disease detection. So the different options which are available for these fields are as follows. Similarly, for the diabetes predictor, they are having the format in this way, where the user need to enter their glucose level, insulin, BMI, and age, and accordingly the prediction will be done whether the person is suffering from a disease of diabetes or not. So this can be used as an early detection of a disease. It is not authenticated by any medical practitioner, but as a preliminary stage, if someone is having some feeling or he just having a suspicion of that he can suffer from any of these disease, so it can be tested. He doesn't need to wait for a longer time, so that the very important symptoms should be visible in his body, then only he can approach to the doctors for this. So through these type of applications which we can develop, by combining the features of machine learning with the health informatics, which can help the users to diagnose their disease at the early stages. So this was one of the example for the machine learning in the healthcare. I'm done with my talk and the information which I wanted to deliver today. Any questions? I'm open to the questions by the participants.
Thank you very much, Madam, for the very insightful talk and some of the really good work that you students have been doing. One common thing that has been resonated for the last week or so is basically in terms of what is the I would say in terms of deliverability of AI in future essentially. So what do you see the challenges of there are essentially? Do you think cross expertise across the teams in terms of the accuracy of the data? Where do you see the challenge? And as an academic researcher, where do you see the challenges and opportunities here?
Yes, sir. As you said, the biggest challenge is the cross expertise that we need other way. As I said that we have developed this model, my students have developed this model, but we are not sure the things which are getting predicted, whether they are correct one or not. We need some medical practice now. So there is a gap which I have feel as an academician, we usually face this challenge that there is a gap between the health medical practitioners and the healthcare field and the researchers who are doing this task. This needed to be filled because we are lacking in terms of the data also, because if we are not having the data, AI or machine learning, anything, these models, whatever the model which we are developing, it won't be able to give us a better accuracy. To get the better result, especially in the terms of the medical field, we need enormous amount of data. On those data only we can train our model. So the biggest challenge is the authentication of the model which we have developed and the dataset availability. These two are the most important challenge for us as an academician here.
So you envision that if your academicians really want to make an impact, and we will need to have a cross team, interdisciplinary team as
yes,
such.
Sir. Definitely, sir. We need to, as you said, as we interacted with you as from the pharmacy
right.
institute. So we need to get interacted with the pharmacy institute also, so that whatever the development in terms of the pharmaceutical work can be done, we also come to know, because when we think the things, we think from our point of view. We don't have any knowledge related to that field. So there is a gap in this sense where interdisciplinary interaction is much required nowadays.
Absolutely. I think you really nailed the question essentially. Professor Abu Sufyan, it's over to you to coordinate further.
Okay, sir. So thank you, Dr. Deepa, for your informative session on machine learning and image processing. You have given wonderful insight on machine learning, its application in healthcare, image chain, image processing, and computer-aided drug design. Once again, I thank you for your excellent and engaging session.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a great opportunity provided to me from AIKTC.
Most welcome. So today we have successfully completed 1 week AICTE sponsored faculty induction program on multidisciplinary and translational drug development. Now we will initiate the valedictory program. For valedictory, we are fortunate to have with us the chief guest, the Cole B. Venkat, the Director Faculty Development Cell of AICTE, the Professor Vijay D. Vaidya, the Executive Secretary of the Iste, Mr. Burhan Haris sir, the Chairman of the BINM, Dr. Abdul Razak Hanudgi, the Director of Anjuman Islam Kalsekar Technical Campus, Dr. Sharik Sayyad, Dean School of Pharmacy, faculty members, and all the participants from different prestigious colleges across the India. I extend my warm welcome to all of you for the valedictory of this 1 week AICTE Iste refresher program. So before I invite the chief guest to address the gathering, I request our Dean School of Pharmacy to give overview of 6 days AICTE sponsored refresher program. Dr. Sharik, it is over to you.
Thank you, Professor Abu Sufyan. So once again, on behalf of all of us here at Kalsekar Technical Campus and all the faculty here, we would like to once again warmly welcome our guest for the day, chief guest for the day, Colonel Venkat, who's the Director of Faculty Development Cell at AICTE, Dr. Vaidya, who's the Executive Secretary for Iste, Executive Chairman for Board of Institutions in Navi Mumbai, Burhan Haris, and Dr. Abdurrazak Munatagi is the director for campus. So I warmly welcome you, sir. So it has been a very exciting, a week-long journey of learning here. So when we started to conceptualize this whole workshop, we really wanted to go, I think we'll admit Venkat sir, I think he's joined with another device. So take a second.
Yeah, Colonel V. Venkat is there already.
I think he just joined with a different device also. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So as I was mentioning, so we wanted to have a very interdisciplinary kind of program, and we thought that artificial intelligence into healthcare was a very valid area and a growth area, especially in the healthcare. So for the last week, we have been interacting with experts both in industry as well as in academia who have given an excellent overview about the opportunities that are there into healthcare. So for the benefit of our guests, I'll just very briefly talk about some of the key speakers and the key message that they have. My screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. So on at the start, we had so we had on the initial opening day, we had Dr. Tanveer Sayyida Mahmood, who had come from IBM Research Lab, and she spoke about some very exciting work that they've been doing at IBM. So in IBM, they have what are they called as the grand challenges. So they take up different areas which are very grand challenges. And IBM Research is like an academic research division. So she heads that division there, and she talked about some very exciting work that they've been doing using artificial intelligence into augmenting for radiologists. So essentially, what they're doing is they are combining the clinical knowledge, the patient data, and using artificial intelligence. It is helping them to provide as an assistant to radiologists. So what is happening is obviously the radiologist is getting overburdened by the amount of data that is coming. And what is happening is with this machine learning algorithm, they're able to combine this diverse knowledge and provide a preliminary read to radiologists so that, they can take it further from there into more of their insights. So it's a very excellent work. She talked about it. It's a 4 or 5 years old long project. And they're almost to a point where they're almost finishing it. And she actually showed a demo of where they actually uploaded an X-ray, and the machine learning algorithm were able to very neatly able to analyze that X-ray and able to pinpoint what are the findings of that, and they corroborated that with the radiologists. So very exciting work there. Second was where Dr. Ahmed Angar. He had come from Ben Saif University in Egypt, and he talked very extensively about the work that they've been doing in Egypt with regards to the IoTs and using artificial intelligence healthcare, especially in this area of COVID, for contact tracing and providing healthcare facilities for people out there. So excellent work there by him and his team there in Egypt. Then we had very interesting talk by two young researchers, Mr. Vivek Patil and Dr. Amit Chaudhary. They come from a company called InnoPlexis. And InnoPlexis is a company based in Germany. They have their offices in Pune also. And the company, which I really didn't know about it before, is they are called the Google of Healthcare. And it was founded by Gunjan Bhardwaj. Gunjan Bhardwaj is an IIT Mumbai alumni. So what they do essentially is to look at these billions of points of data in the healthcare domain in terms of what is out there in publications, what is out there into the servers of different companies. They pull them out and use artificial intelligence for guiding these companies. So what is this? So they look at mechanistically what is this disease is caused by, what could be different molecules that could be effective in that. So basically leveraging the power of AI into massive data that they have and providing some meaningful insights. So really exciting work by these young researchers. Then we had Emilia Gestonti, who had come in from University of Pennsylvania, and they were doing some very cool work there at University of Pennsylvania with regards to breast cancer predictions. So they're looking at the mammograms and the X-rays as such and CT scans of women. And with the model that they've developed, they're very accurately able to predict the risk of breast cancer and even the follow-up of breast cancer over a period of 10 years. And they've actually implemented that into the hospital setting where these data would be uploaded and you could really get an assessment of the risk out there. So very interesting work was been funded by Bill Gates Foundation. And on Saturday, we had two really keynote speakers where we had Panna Sharma, who had come in all the way from US into Lantern Pharma. And he talked about some really cool stuff that his company is doing by leveraging the entire genomics data and into guiding some of the new molecules that they're working on. So they have some couple of molecules which are into phase 2 trials and phase 3 trials. Along with him, finally, we had Professor Anand Mahorkar, who is the founder and CEO of Findability Sciences, so also a company that uses AI and applies the learnings into AI into non-clinical areas, something in terms of drug delivery, something into patient care, providing bots and all that facilities using applications into AI. So it's very exciting work. And both of them are CEO and founders of almost, $100 million valuation company. Findability has been recently funded by a SoftBank, by Japanese companies out there. So very interesting work. So these are just the snippets of what has happened in the last week. In addition to that, we had some experts from both from industry and academia. And our goal was basically to provide a platform for this conversation into AI and essentially spark a conversation. This field is new. We want to have an interdisciplinary conversation where a pharmacist is talking about listening to AI, with computer engineers are talking about what are the issues into healthcare, and essentially, that provides a platform for collaboration, for growth, and for further research. So that was our goal. So we tried our best to bring in experts, and I'm very positive and hopeful that the faculty have found these sessions for the last week or so meaningful, and for them to start further research and further work in these areas. So that was in very brief I had so that our guests get an idea of what has been done in the last week or so. And once again, on behalf of our campus, I would really like to thank Iste and AIKTC for supporting these programs and essentially helping in the cross development of faculty. Thank you so much, Professor Sufyan. I hand it over to you for further questions.
So thank you, Dr. Sharik, for giving wonderful overview of the program. Indeed, all the sessions were very fruitful, especially to promote multidisciplinary collaboration, which is also in line with the NEP 2020. It's a great honor for all of us to have the guest for today's program, the Cole B. Venkat, the Director Faculty Development Cell of the AICT. I take this opportunity to introduce B. Venkat sir. He is currently holding position of the Director Faculty Development Cell AICT, where he has huge responsibility of coordinating for various AICT sponsored programs scheduled all over the India, including the short-term training program, quality program, training program for physical education, AICT Technical University Joint Training Program for teachers and librarians. He also involved in implementation of the Research Promotion Scheme, AICT Professional Development Scheme, AICT INE Teacher Research Fellowship Scheme for faculty, AICT IST Induction Refresher Program, AICT and NPTEL collaboration, and many more. He also involved in implementation of MOU signed with technical universities and preparation of replies to the Parliament questions and any other information sought related to the task handled by the cell. Sir, you are doing huge job in the educational field. Your efforts toward teachers training is enormous. With this brief introduction, I welcome the Cole B. Venkat sir and thanks you for joining us. Now I request you, sir, to address the gathering.
Sir, very good evening and great meeting you, sir, and great coming online on a platform wherein we are having this particular activity. Let me first compliment and congratulate you on a very wonderful activity being done towards the valedictory program of a 1 week long AICT IST approved function. And as you can see, sir, even in so late in the evening, we having a sizable strength of the participation, which is coming for this activity on a subject which is multidisciplinary and translational drug development. So having said that, let me also tell you that it is so very, very pertinent that when you're having a subject which is cutting across the boundaries and is not specified or limited to any specific discipline, but having a multidisciplines involved is the future of education. And exactly this is what has been rightly brought out and mentioned in the National Education Policy also, when it says that no future institute can be retained as a standalone institute. In fact, in the times to come, it's only the multidisciplinary subjects and the multidisciplinary institutes offering these subjects will be the future. So huge compliments to you to Anjuman Islam's Khalsa Technical Campus for having come out with a very wonderful proposal. Dr. Sharik Sayed, great to be connected with you when we all together come for an online activity, and we need to be complementing your institute, we need to be complementing the resource people, we need to be complementing the coordinator, we need to be complementing the co-coordinators of your institute for having done a beautiful 1 week long activity. I can only appreciate your effort in words as far as I can speak sitting from here. But in case the best compliments have to be coming, the best compliments you would have already received in terms of the participation statistics which are seen right now. If 7:45 in the evening, we have 67 people connected, I personally feel that is the biggest compliment that you people are receiving from your participants. And when a participation or a participant gives you compliments, and in case they implement your practices which you have taught to them into their teaching learning, into their methodology of instruction in the times to come, I think you have achieved each and every aspect of this 1 week long training program. Fabulous. It's been huge. It's been very well done. We also need to compliment Iste for their continuous support, and I can see Vaidya sir also connected. Let me also speak a few words about Vaidya sir. I have been in touch now, touch and go around a year plus that we have been working together. My association is with Iste has been simply outstanding. Not because of an Iste as an organization. An organization, I always keep saying, is as good or bad as is the leadership in that organization. And having said this, let me compliment Vaidya sir for being at the helm of affairs of this organization, and what a wonderful inauguration of activities, what a wonderful culmination of activities, what a beautiful thought process towards overall improvement of the technical education. This is not the only activity wherein they are performing. The multifarious activities in which they are there, and every activity wherein Iste touches, it comes out that one of the most glorified activities promoting overall quality in technical education. Thank you, Vaidya sir. It's been an absolute honor to be associated with you. It's been absolute wonderful at AICT that we have such beautiful institutions and such wonderful academicians who are heading those organizations, whose only single aim happens to be just carrying out a work done. As far as the AICT is concerned, let me be straight away honest with you. Our singular aim happens to be promoting quality, improvement in the quality, doing whatsoever that we can do, which is desirable. What is desirable is something at times we look forward to get from you people, and all these activities which are getting done or which are being proposed have come out after having interaction with the faculty members, the students, the institutes, and the stakeholders. So that is the whole aim of AICT on behalf of Ministry of Education, that we are just looking forward to your active support. All of us here congratulate your institute. Once again, I congratulate each one of you. I congratulate each one of you for bringing out the best resource persons in this activity. I've got the full list of resource people which you people have involved. It is good to see, it is so heartening to see that the effort which has gone behind today's activity. Participants, one word before I will hand over the platform. Consider yourself very fortunate and lucky that you people are living in those times where, in spite of so much negativity moving around, we still have institutes of the caliber of where you and me together are connected in the evening today, that in spite of all adversities moving around, they still are doing their best to make sure that they are contributing towards the enhancement of fellow colleagues and fellow participants and fellow research scholars. So having said this, I think collectively each one of us need to thank, each one of us need to congratulate and compliment the institute and each and everyone behind this. One word, like I always mentioned about the leadership, we also need to mention about the leadership in an institute. It goes the same, it is applicable the same everywhere. As good the leader is, as good is the impression of the institute. And believe you me when I say this, the only thing which is coming out of today's activity is that compliments to you, sir. Congratulations. Please let us know at AICT if we could do anything beyond this to remain associated with you. We have noted your this activity. You will be in touch with AICT in times to come and much, much beyond. Well done. Congratulations. And please do remain connected. It's been a singular honor for me to be coming here and speaking. Thank you and wishing you all the best. Thanks a lot and very good evening to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. It was so supportive of you, and we really thank our management, as you mentioned, our leadership, Dr. Razak sir, who's the director of the campus, and our very own chairman, Mr. Burhan Haris, and Zahir Kai Saab, who's the president of Anjuman Islam, which is India's largest minority organization. So we are privileged and honored to be working with them. As you rightly mentioned, we continuously look forward for your support in future, sir. Thank you so much for your kind words.
Most welcome, sir. Most welcome. Absolute honor.
It's been very inspiring to hear from you, sir.
So thank you, sir, for inspiring our participant and also complimenting all of us. It is huge motivation for our participant and also organizing team. We will surely keep going our endeavor towards improving quality of teachers' fraternity. Going ahead, we have with us Professor Vijay D. Vaidya, Executive Secretary of Iste. I take this opportunity to introduce Professor Vaidya. Professor Vijay D. Vaidya has obtained his BTech degree from Karnataka Regional Engineering College in 1981. He worked in the field with MS FCon Mumbai at different sites in Karnataka, AP, Goa, MP, etc. And also worked with the designer firm and did structural designing for different type of structures like residential, commercial, industrial, and public building. He joined teaching field in 1985 as a lecturer in civil engineering department in Government Polytechnic. Since then, he worked in a different capacity, including lecturer in civil engineering, head of civil engineering, training and placement officer, vice principal, and principal. He has worked in administration in Directorate of Technical Education, Mumbai, as assistant director, work as deputy secretary in Maharashtra State Board of Technical Education, Mumbai, which deal with diploma education in Maharashtra. He is having the long list of achievement in his credit. Few of these are: during field work at the site, he has completed many mega time-bound projects. Government Polytechnic Kolhapur got accredited by NBA during his tenure of the principal. He is pioneer in designing G-scheme curriculum for MSBT and Mumbai. He developed online monitoring system of the Institute for MSBT Mumbai and is still in practices for deciding performance. He has organized various type of training, workshop, conferences for the teachers and the students in MSBT Mumbai. He has enhanced industry relation and involved by the industry at every stage of service. He has written the book on valuation, attended various national and international conferences. Professor Vaidya is an executive council member of Iste since 2012, and he is presently serving as the executive secretary of Iste. He has adopted various measures to reduce expenses. He activated various programs and activities as per the policy of Honorable President and Directive of Executive Council. Professor Vaidya is working hard for development and progress of Indian Society of Technical Education. On behalf of Anjuman Islam Kalseka Technical Campus, I extend my warm welcome to Professor Vaidya and take this opportunity to invite him to give valedictory address of the program. Professor Vaidya, it is over to you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. It's really my pleasure to be with you for this valedictory function of program FDP organized by Anjuman Islam's Kalseka Technical Campus, Panvel. It is on multidisciplinary translational drug development. Honorable Burhan Haris sir, Colonel Venkat sir. Really, Colonel Venkat sir is a source of inspiration and motivation for us. And one thing you would have noticed that till now he is in office, and it is his regular practice, because we know that whenever we go to Delhi, whenever we go to him, he is always in the office, and even you will find him working even on Saturdays also. So really such a great person, having high regards about teaching community and always doing something good, or so you can say best for the teaching community. So we are very proud that we are having association with AICT, particularly the persons like Colonel Venkat sir and even Dr. Sahasrabuddhe sir, chairman of AICT, Dr. Punia sir, Vice Chairman, Rajiv Kumarji, Member Secretary, all these people, including Colonel Venkat sir, they are very much positive and always doing something for the betterment of our teaching community. Dr. Abdul Razak Anudgi, Director of this institute, Sharik Sayyed, Course Coordinator, and other dignitaries from the institute, as well as staff members and my dear participants. Really, it's a great thing that you organize the topic, selected the topic, multidisciplinary and translational drug development. Just before joining this, means before starting of this valedictory function, I had an opportunity to listen to the session by Deepa Parasar. Really, the session was really excellent and it shows the quality of sessions you are organizing. And other thing, the brief information or the brief information about the total program which you have given by Dr. Sharik Sayyed, it clearly shows that you have called the eminent personalities from all over the world, and really the topic selected was most appropriate, and similarly the resource persons selected were most appropriate related with the topic. So really participants are lucky to have this opportunity. And one thing I have noted in the chat box, the participants are giving continuous feedback, and it really shows that the program is of excellent nature. So I really appreciate this institute, particularly Dr. Sharik Sayyed, and the direction of, under the guidance of Dr. Abdul Razak Anudgi. They have done a good work, and particularly the organizing team, because organizing such a program with international speakers is very difficult, because first thing is about the time sense, the time lag is there. So you have to select the appropriate time suitable for the expert. At the same time, this program is an online basis. So you have to see that the program is started. It starts at exactly at the time, exactly at the scheduled time, and it runs properly. And further, you have to be in touch with the participants to give them different types of information. So you have to make active WhatsApp group as well as email method also you have to use. And really, this program for whole week, all coordinating organizing committee as well as coordinator, they are working like anything, because without that it is not possible to get the success for this program. And at the same time, it requires minimum 1 month preparation to organize this program. So really they have taken tremendous effort for organizing this program. Basically, this is the AICTE program, and the main purpose of these programs is to give knowledge in emerging areas to our teachers, and so they must be given exposure to the new trends and technologies that are coming, and with that they can guide the students properly. Because see, one thing, when student is studying in a class or a student is in the institute, he is listening to what his teachers are guiding him, or whatever the classroom learning he is doing, that is the only learning he is doing. And when he goes out in the field, and when he sees that the technology and the total concepts and the environment is entirely different from the institute, he gets confused and sometimes he may get frustrated, because it's very difficult he feels very difficult to survive in that environment. And for this proper orientation of teachers is must, so that they can give proper training to the students. Now, this AICTE program, the purpose of this training program is to give exposure to the emerging trends and technologies that are being implemented in the industry, and the trends that are going to come in future. And that will help teachers to know the new things that are going to come. Here, really I appreciate the efforts taken by this institute for organizing this program, and particularly they have taken the artificial intelligence and machine learning as a basic topic, and based on that they have developed the total workshop or the total FDP, and they have developed in a very nice way, which really shows their sincerity and dedication for the work. Now, if you consider the total development, pharmacy industry is going through a drastic development and changes. Now, recently, we know that the COVID pandemic has taught us many lessons, and This is one of the things that we are doing this program on online basis. But due to this online basis, we got the tremendous advantage that the resource persons which they have called for this program, I don't think they would have come and conducted a session in a physical mode, because that's highly impossible, because the resource persons, the time schedule is very important, and we have noted that the eminent personalities in different areas, they are ready to share their knowledge, but only they have the consent of time. So this is the best method by which they can share their knowledge, and the participants can be best benefited by this. Now, if you consider the pharmacy industry also, the pharmacy industry is undergoing drastic changes, and I'm proud to say that, and we all are proud that COVID vaccination is also developed by Indian industry, and we are one of the largest producer of COVID vaccine, and we are exporting the thing to the world. So that is a great achievement of pharmacy industry. And one important aspect is that the pandemic started last year. So within a short span of 8 to 9 months, the vaccine was developed and we started implementing it. So it is only possible due to new trends and technologies, because it is learned that it takes about 3 to 5 years for any industry to develop a vaccine. So all these tests and all, after completion of all these tests and to find it safe for the human being, it can be applied to the humans. And for this, it takes about 3 to 5 years, but it's developed in a very short span, and it is due to technology. So the technology and the efforts have come together, and with that, we have received a good result for the betterment of the world. So find that presently the technologies are changing drastically. So whatever technology was there, that is becoming obsolete today, and whatever technology is today, that technology is becoming obsolete tomorrow. So with this, the new trends of technologies are coming in nearby future, and that will have a great impact on our social life as well as our society. That will be in terms of, you'll see that the present jobs, many of the present jobs are going to become obsolete in future, and at the same time, new kind of jobs are going to come, and those new kind of jobs will be requiring different kind of expertise, different types of competencies, and the students or the persons who are having those abilities can join those jobs and can do those jobs perfectly. So for this, it's our duty to train our teachers in that direction. So now I appeal all the participants that really you have a golden opportunity to attend this session, and really the sessions conducted, the FDP is conducted in an excellent manner, and really you are benefited by that. So don't stop at this stage. Whatever you have learned, try to implement in your day-to-day life. Even if you are doing any research, you can think of these new areas where you can do the research, and similarly, you can think of the future development and the strategy you have to adopt for the development of your students. So this is very important aspect, and once you think in that direction, definitely you will develop yourself, you will develop your institute, and you will develop your students. Another thing is that presently the government of India is giving wide scope for new entrepreneurs. So there is good scope for entrepreneurship also. So try to see that the students which are with you are having different abilities, different capacities, identify the capacities, and those who can become entrepreneurs, try to guide them in that direction. Those who can go for research, try to guide in that direction, so that the good research work will also come, good entrepreneurs will come, and that definitely will help for the development of our nation. So once again, at the end, I would like to congratulate all the members, particularly Dr. Sharif Sayyed, coordinator of this, or coordinator for this program, and Dr. Abdul Razak Honji, director of this campus director, for giving them a proper motivation, because without motivation and support, such type of activities cannot be conducted. And particularly, I appreciate the efforts and support by Burhan Harris, Honorable Burhan Harris, because I know him very well and I had been with him for many programs, and his attitude towards the development and the ways he the visionary ideas or concepts in his mind really are helping institute, particularly this campus, to develop in a better way. I wish all the best for your future developments, and I expect your full cooperation in future activities of ISD and AS. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Vijay D. Vaidya, for your inspiring valedictory address and valuable guidance to us as a teacher. We were enjoying the refresher program from last 6 days, but your valedictory address made us feel that in true sense, now we have closed the loop of this program. Thank you, sir. Going ahead, we have with us the director of the campus, Dr. Abdul Razak Hanudgi. Sir, you have inaugurated this refresher program with your opening remark. So on this valedictory program, I request you, sir, to give your views of the session. Director, sir, it is over to you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Abu Sufyan. Indeed, it's a great evening. The evening we have witnessed the commencement of month of Ramadan, and this was the day which was celebrated across the country as Gudi Padwa, Yugadi, and all kinds of festivals. So in that festive mood, this valedictory program is happening, and that too being witnessed by two stalwarts, one from AICT, the other from Iste. And there is no doubt that whatever appreciation, whatever amount of compliments we give to Dr. Vijay Vaidya, it is almost nothing. You praise anything about him, it is just nothing, because the way he advised us, the way he contributed in the development of our campus particularly, and the care and concern, always giving proper guidance on time. If we are going little away from any kind of our activities, putting us on the right track, so that kind of free and frank feedback can be given only by a straightforward, a person having clear thought process, and that is what we have seen in Dr. Vaidya. And he being a guest today for giving a valedictory address, it was most appropriate. And I heard a lot, and I heard a lot of his anchoring and even speeches of Colonel V. Venkat. Most particularly, I happen to be a disciple. I call it myself as a disciple or a student of my guru, Dr. Ashok Shettar, who is now Vice Chancellor of KLE Technological University, Hubballi. And a person of that stature, he used to always tell that there is a right person sitting in AICT headquarters heading faculty development program. And under his stewardship, all kinds of faculty development programs will definitely, they are in line with NEP 2020, they are in line with the global requirements, and those kinds of programs are being charted by Colonel Venkat, and he many times expressed about his capabilities, about expectations out of him, and such a person from AICT being chief guest for today's valedictory program. Indeed, our campus, we all are blessed to have these kind of two gentlemen attending valedictory program. So again, it is a blessing for all participants, and there is no doubt in that. So though we started this program for a 1 week FDP in online mode, and there is going to be one more component of this program, one more week of program later on, rather in the month of May. So that time again, we will be coming with a new theme. Right now, under the theme called AI in Healthcare, our organizing team headed by Dr. Sharik Sayed, Professor Abu Sufyan as a coordinator, and all the team of School of Pharmacy, faculty team of School of Pharmacy, and all the steering committee members of Anjuman Islam's Kalseka Technical Campus were well guided, well instructed to see that there is no compromise on quality. Because our chairman, Mr. Burhan Haris, he always make it a point that we do all that is required to be done for excellence. So there is no compromise as far as quality is concerned. No FDPs or such training programs should not happen for the sake of formality. It should be always a value added kind of endeavor. So that is what the instructions we have been receiving from our management, and we are very lucky to have our leader as Mr. Burhan Haris as the executive chairman for board for institution in Navi Mumbai, and today he is witnessing this valedictory program. And we were also expecting our president, Dr. Zahir Qazi, and because of his other schedule, it was overlapping, so he could not make it to this program. Otherwise, he would have been in this program. And Dr. Zahir Qazi, who is heading the entire Anjuman Islam and a varied spectrum of activities he is looking after, and managing such a versatile organization, having 97 institutions, 110,000 students is not a joke. And that is what he is engaged with in the entire this pandemic period. And he is always a torchbearer, a guiding force for all of us. So I can say that through across all this week, whatever topics, whatever resource persons provided the insights about this field, the participants are really lucky enough to get those kind of inputs. The moment they get input, that is a starting point for them to further their research. And that was the main objective of conducting these FDPs, just to trigger that research attitude and aptitude in all the participants. And I'm really thankful to the entire spectrum of participants, because they were very receptive. They were not just attending this program for the sake of a certificate. They are truly attending to learn, to add value, attending at the end of the day. And even this kind of time setting is really a matter of interest amongst participants. And that itself shows that, yes, we have done justice to this FDP. And likewise, in future, whatever such programs we get from Iste and AICTE, we are very happy to take up, and we always try to do justice. And as always, Dr. Vijay Vedya will be always there for hand-holding, and that he is our advisor, he is our guide, mentor, and he will be always there to help us. And with this kind of, with happy ending note, I can say you have done justice, you have done a great work, and congratulations to the entire team of School of Pharmacy of Anjuman Islam's Kalseko Technical Campus. And it has become a matter of pride for all of us. And we will be putting a right report in front of management and across the stakeholders. And even we are getting a lot of views on YouTube live of this program. So the viewership is really good, and they are giving huge liking. And that shows the quality of sessions were tremendously well structured. So with this, I again congratulate each and everybody, and I pay my compliments, my sincere thanks to Dr. Vaidya, Colonel B. Venkat, our chairman, Mr. Burhan Haris, from the core of my heart, on behalf of entire campus of Anjuman Islam's Kalseko Technical Campus, for conducting such a wonderful program. Thank you very much. Over to Professor Abu Sufyan.
Welcome, sir. So thank you, Director, sir, for your wonderful views on the program and inspiring and motivating our participants. I'm sure our all participants will truly get value out of this refresher program. So going ahead, we have with us Honorable Executive Chairman of Board of Institute of Navi Mumbai, Mr. Burhan Haris. I take this opportunity to introduce him. So Mr. Burhan Haris, sir, graduated in the Bachelor of Arts from St. Xavier College, Mumbai, with the specialization in economics and Islamic culture in 1973. He started a small-scale industry named Fibertech Industry Private Limited in 1974. Sir has also worked as the manager of Armaco in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia in 1978. After returning to India, he started Maharashtra Salt Manufacturing Cooperative Society Limited and developed 2 salt pans having the producing capacity of 5,000 tons of salt. Sir acted as a founder chairman of the Salt Manufacturing Cooperative Society. He was consulting CEO of Namera International Co Limited, Bangkok, Thailand, Soft Origin Infotech Private Limited, Kenmore Technology Private Limited, and the list goes on. Now, sir is committed to social and educational cause by being an active member of Anjuman Islam Mumbai as the member of its General and Executive Council, as well as the Executive Chairman of Anjuman Islam Board of Institute of Navi Mumbai. He is also trustee of Ideal Educational Society, Rabade, and the Shur Prakar Educational and Medical Trust, Sopara. With this brief introduction, now I request our Honorable Executive Chairman, Mr. Burhan Haris sir, to address the gathering with few words. It is over to you, sir.
Sir, unmute yourself.
Okay. Hello, how are you? Good morning. Assalamu alaikum, etc., etc. But this is how I want to start today's my part of speech or talking. You know. I'm sorry, but
thank you, sir.
But after hearing earlier speakers from Vijay Vaidya to Colonel Venkat, especially the kind of pride, sense of pride, the kind of excitement I heard. But see, I've been watching, these had been the last 1 year, I had been seeing webinar have become a fashion word, you know. Webinar have become matter of work. Webinar had become, you know, karna hai, isliye karna hai, kind of attitude. There was very rarely, I mean, lesser times than more, when the attitude was, कि webinar karna hai, webinar. That kind of, there was no real sincerity that, I mean, there was very rarely when there was sincerity. अब करना है, superiors ने बोला है, ये हमारे duties में है, तो हमको करना है तो बस, you know, that kind of an attitude. And the kind of attitude, very rarely that people had this kind of attitude to a webinar. Webinar is a matter of great advantage. One of the great advantage of COVID, I should say, or I mean, we are being forced to, you know, getting online and doing things online. I mean, using it so positively to earn, to learn, to unlearn a lot of things. The knowledge, the treasures of knowledge, it was an opportunity which was always being misused. Against that, the way, and thank you. I mean, my standing up and clapping was for the staff here, for the team from, people say from Sharik to, I say from Sufyan to everybody who were responsible for this kind of this whole event. Weathers up, thank you. I don't know how to thank you forever the way you had been. Colonel Venkat sir, I came in, entered with your speech starting, and I wanted to jump from my chair. Thank you so much. I mean, people like you coming out with such detailed appreciation of all the efforts we had been. Yes, no doubt, I won't be a very humble saying that, you know, God's grace. Yes, God's grace, great. We believe in God's grace. We believe in the condition to be successful in life for an individual or for an organization. But yes, it was the way things happened here. I mean, we had been lucky in getting people like Vijay Vaidya for so long. For as guides, you know, you rarely get it. It's accident. Accident happened by nature. Yes, nature comes in life. Same way. I mean, today the way you chose the guests from all over the world, matching timings, etc., etc. The management organizing part of it, sell it to everybody who did that. But then, yes, we did come out with a lot of, I mean, see the way and the complexity of the whole, event from two different, line organizations like AICT and Iste together, getting with two branches, I mean, like pharmacy and engineering together, and then so many countries, so many sessions, days, different days. I mean, ek din khatam hua, second day, next day aaya. All this mashing up together. Great event, great effort. I thank Almighty. I thank you all, the management people and the guests, for appearing to make me to get the credit for not doing anything this time. So sometimes you have to speak truth, right? I mean, though I always used to, but then yes, this time it was the boys. It was the boys and the girls who did it, and the advisors of people like Vijay, Major. Thank you. I mean, what do I say? Very politely, very humbly, I say, please join us together. Please make it a practice. Keep it a habit. Make it as an habit to organize such event. We are in the world of spreading education. God has sent all of us, you and me, to spread knowledge. And we have to do it honestly. We have to do it intensely. We have to do it consistently. We have to do it differently. We have to do it the way it should be done. And we did. We had all the intention to do it. And by the grace of God, we've been doing lots of it, most of it. I pray to Almighty, because it is the day of Ramzan and so many other, I mean, the beginning of Ramzan and so many other festivals today. Together, what a luck. Kya kismat ki baat hai. Itne sare religion ke New Year's and the most important month of Islam. Also, Ramzan is here. So we have so much together. So let's pray that we do it better than what we have done. That we do things of spreading knowledge by to the rightest part of it, which makes God happy, which makes people happy, which makes human being happy, which makes this world a better place, this world place where we fight. The world is, when the world is full of people whose job, whose duty is to spread bad in life, sins in life. If we are into this part of spreading knowledge, good knowledge, positive knowledge which will make this world more beautiful, I think this is one of the part of that duty which we perform in this 1 week. And prior to that, in preparing for this event, thank you for coming here. Those who worked and those who, जिन्होंने 4 चांद लगाए बोलते हैं हमारे उर्दू में या हिंदी में, to the whole event. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Muran Hari sir, for your motivational words as always. Your guidance and motivation keep us going. Now it's time of formal vote of thanks. It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks of this 6-day AICT IST sponsor refresher program.
And sorry, give me 1 minute. Sorry, I
Sure.
forgot the most important people. I don't know who is the most important of all these. The participants. My God, from such a wide spectrum, I mean, part of this world. I mean, being on time, online, so what? It was online. घर में बैठ के किया तो क्या किया? तो क्या? Coming to participating and being very concentrative and asking questions, making the knowledge go bigger in volume and quality with the questioning, participating and all that. Thank you so much. Making people who spread the knowledge encourage them to do it more. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I am also agreed that all the participants were super active during entire all 6-day session. So let's continue with the vote of thanks. It's my privilege to propose vote of thanks of this 6-day AICT IST sponsor refresher program. I sincerely thanks to IST and AICT for sponsoring this 6-day faculty refresher program. I thanks to Konkol V. Venkat, Director, Faculty Development Cell, AICT, and Professor Vijay D. Vaidya, Executive Secretary of IST, for gracing this validatory program in spite of their extremely busy schedule. I would like to express my sincere thanks to my organizing committee members, Dr. Firoz Khan, Professor Maria Lal, and Professor Priyanka for being valued part of the coordinating team and their enormous cooperation in organizing this event. As you know that event like this cannot happen overnight and it's required planning and a guidance. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by very motivated leaders. Our own President of Anjuman Islam, Dr. Zahir Kazi, Honorable Executive Chairman of BINM, Mr. Buran Harris, the Director of the campus, Dr. Abdul Razak Khanuji, and Dean School of Pharmacy, Dr. Sharik Sayyed. We thank you all for your valuable guidance and support. I also thanks to all the participants of the refresher program for your active participation. With this, we are done with our 1-week AICT IST refresher program. As per schedule and IST guideline, we have released feedback and assessment link with MCQ based question for being eligible for AICT IST certificate. Have a nice day. Thanks for joining this program and being well-disciplined participants. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay blessed. Thank you.
कल से खाने का नहीं, इसलिए आज ज़्यादा खाने की कोशिश करता हूं.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Sir, where is the test link being shared, sir? It is not in the chat box.
It is shared by Dr. Firoz.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vaidya, sir. And your valuable inputs made all of us to keep on track. Thank you so much.
We are always with you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We are always with you, sir.
Yes, sir. I know that. There is no doubt in that. And I still remember you were the key person, who asked us that we are giving you this program. You asked, whether to give it to pharmacy or engineering, but you took the decision for giving it to pharmacy. It was the right decision made by you, sir. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Shall I close it, sir? Shall I close the meeting?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you. Thanks all.